Give us a wave, Mark. Mark is up in my top left-hand corner, but Mark records all of these sessions, posts them on the OC College website, makes all the material, he hosts all that, and that link is on the invitation if you got it on email. If you haven't, I will be posting it here at the end of the session as well. And Mark also posts the recorded sessions up on Facebook. He's our technical guru, chief bottle washer and cook, and the guy that keeps us all straight and in line. If you can, when you come in, if you could please mute yourself, but by all means, unlike the static presentations, they're a semi-formal presentation. If you have something value added or a question relevant or just a clarification on what is being presented, feel free to unmute yourself, interrupt, and ask your question to get it dealt with. If you have other questions, by all means, put them in the chat and we'll ask Michael at the end of the presentation before we go on to general discussion. So at this point, I'd like to take the opportunity. Michael, you don't have video on, so I can't tell you to wave, but if you should be able to see Mike Haworth's photograph there. We'd like to take the opportunity to welcome back Michael Haworth, and Heather, if you're in the background there somewhere. I think you still in Lake Elsinore, Michael?
Yeah.
So that's the central part of California, sort of between Los Angeles and San Diego, but inland east.
Yeah,
it's another presentation on making the most of zeros and modules. For those of you that remember, Mike was here last time. He gave us a talk on, we called it checkmate in two, but it's basically the ability to find your corner grouping in two moves, which really gelled a lot of the stuff that Bob Ellingen, Kip Garvey, and others put in when we talk about groupings and stations. It's a thought process that follows on to the previous talks, and it brings the whole idea together. And that's what Michael's here to do today, is again simplifying some of this idea of choreographic control by calling with a purpose and a goal in mind, dealing with how to get the most out of your zeros and modules. So all yours, Michael.
Thanks. So I try to target this more to the new callers. I don't know how good a job I did, because I do have an issue sometimes remembering what it was like to be new, other than the horrors of it. So there's a bunch of knowledge that I've acquired over 30 years that is hard to step away from. So what I thought I'd do is basically take what Mel was calling the foundation modules and use those as a starting point and show how to riff on them. You know, if you're a jazz musician and you're trying to improvise, you kind of take a melody and you riff on it a little bit, and you try to find little variations, and sometimes that kind of helps you get a grasp of what your repertoire really is, and how it works. So just for grins, I wanted to start with the top 10 desires for the intrepid new caller. So the first one should be ensure dancers' enjoyment and success. I think, anyway, that's just my opinion. And the next one may be call for success with smooth flowing and mostly wind in the face choreography. Well, see number 1. Keep your sequences short and meaningful. See number 1. You know, when you keep your sequences short and meaningful, you tend to remember things a lot better. Who belongs with whom, who your key people are if you're trying to sight call, something like that. It just keeps you in the groove a little better. And if it's short, you're not giving your dancers a lot of opportunity to break down, so they have the opportunity to win more, and you'll be able to give them that opportunity more often if you have shorter sequences. Okay, anyway, allow all dancers to interact with one another. See number 1. Expose all dancers to as many corners of the square, which some callers call quadrants, and I do call them quadrants, as possible. See number 1 again. And skillfully build up to anything challenging. You know, you can't just throw a really complicated get out at the dancers. If it's like a 4-story get out and you're on the bottom floor, you got to build a stairway so they can get up to the 4th floor. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. Maybe be able to call everything on the fly without having to work too hard and resolve it successfully. Well, see number 1 again. Utilize themes and get outs that created impact. See number 1 again. And maybe be the next Lee Coppin or Jerry Story or Jack Lazary, Dave Stevens, Bill Davis, Frank Lane, or any of your favorite caller heroes, Marshall Flippo. If that's your goal, maybe you should see the door and exit stage left. Or be universally respected and adored. Well, have you considered getting a dog? The dog will universally respect you and adore you. All right, well, anyway, that's just for grins. So what's a module? Well, basically, it's a sequence of one or more calls that serves a specific purpose. I think we've gone over this before, so this is just a quick review. There's functional modules, which I call functional modules. There are zeros, fractional zeros, technical zeros, equivalent, conversions, transitions, setups, get outs, you name it. If it provides a function that you can wrap your head around, then and you use it that way, it's considered a functional module. Mainly, they create known destination phasers or known setups from some originally set up. So you call a zero from a corner box and you expect to have a zero. And they're meaningful in the context of resolution. Otherwise, function makes absolutely no difference. You could have a string of calls and put them together, and it makes no difference what the output is if you're not interested in resolving at some point. And then there's flow modules. These, I kind of put these together just as a way to remind me what an interesting idea is for a set of calls. They're just pleasing to dance. They flow nicely. They convey a theme or some other desire that's non-functional in the way I use it. It may actually have a function, but I just don't think of it in terms of the function. I might have a list of something on a walk and dodge, a riff, and then I could insert that. I look at it and insert it into my calling, and I don't worry about resolution. I'll take care of that some other means. And output is really not the point. It's a choreographic idea when resolution is not really important. And so basically, one thing you can do is build your foundation of skill through the creation and study of modules, whether or not you choose to use a modular calling system. You can have a strict modular calling system and never site call, and that's one thing, or you can mix your bag of tricks. But it all boils down to your homework, all boils down to studying modules and how the calls interact and so forth. So the study of modules, I think, is pretty important. So here are the foundation modules plus the invert and rotate module that Mel had presented before. So I put some kind of handy dandy name to some of these. Swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through from a box. I call that the normal box zero cliche. It's used a lot. It's kind of a cliche. Slide through, pass through, bend the line, and slide through, or equivalents for any of those calls. That's really what a lot of callers call the invert and rotate module. It's a technical zero when called from certain pairings, and it's a transition otherwise. Swing through, girls circulate, boys trade, boys run, bend the line. That's Bill Peters' magic module, or the module he made famous by calling it the magic module. And then we have the normal line zero, or conversion, sorry. Touch a quarter, circulate, and boys run. That'll take you from a partner line to a corner box. And then from the box, we have this half of the chicken plucker, right and left through, pass through, and trade by. I call it a modified half chicken plucker because the original used slightly different calls. These are equivalents to the original. And then we have an old-fashioned line zero, which was a pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through. First couple go left, next couple go right. So if you've been working on these as a new caller and kind of had these memorized and really know what they do, the next step might be to just take these and change one little thing and build your module repertoire. So here's the most effective way I found to memorize modules. Use them a lot with some kind of clear purpose in mind. That really solidifies what they do and where they can be used if you're using them properly with a clear purpose. Use them with an understanding of their characteristics and effects. And because you and your dancers love what they do, talk to Bob Elling. He loves the modules he uses, and his dancers love him because he does. He makes sure that they have fun with them and that they get through it. daily and physical checker practice until they sink in. If you use physical checkers on a tabletop and you're pushing them around with your fingers, that activity helps you memorize the modules. If you're looking at it on a computer, you don't get the same kinesthetic benefit, and there's not the same kind of neural pathways that get created in your brain for those things. So I really think physical checker work helps, and use them a lot more. And you just use them until they just become something you know. Like that zero box cliche, I think everybody knows how to call that. Swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. There's just, I mean, you could call that in your sleep most of the time, and you've seen it in sing calls and so forth. So you know it really well because you use it. So getting more from your modules. This is kind of what I was talking about, riffing. So, you know, you can start from a comfortable reference point, and it makes adding those new modules to your repertoire a lot easier. Just you can develop an understanding for the characteristics and the options and possibilities, and that helps to increase your confidence, which translates into a better performance wherever you call. So let's start with the zero box cliche and find its reflection. I'm calling it a reflection because it's not exactly a mirror image, but it's the idea is, you know, this module goes one way and now we want to go another way. So we can call left swing through, girls run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. So, you know, this basically takes the rotation from clockwise to counterclockwise. And it does, if they're not used to doing left kinds of things in girls running, it does raise the tension a little bit, which is one of the tools you have to create excitement in your dance. So you could call this to raise the tension a little bit. And once the centers pass through, you're back to your zero box, your corner box, if that's where you started from. And so all is well. You can call left allemande, which tells them they've won, and it releases the tension. This kind of game that we have with tension and release is kind of like riding on a roller coaster. You know, you're moving up this long hill, and the tension is building because you know what's going to happen at the other end, or you think you know what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden you're down the pass, and the excitement builds and builds and builds, and eventually, you know, you have the release when you end up back in the station. And this is the kind of idea here. We're going to change the module. It's basically the same module. We really only changed one thing. We're going to the left, and then it's the girls that run rather than the boys. And if you call it centers run, then the only thing you changed was the left. Okay, so we could insert a technical zero in the middle of the thing, and that gives people a different aspect, a different place to dance. Swing through, all eight circulate, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. You know, if somebody really wants to see these, we can put them on Taminations or whatever, but can you kind of follow that in your head? Swing through, instead of boys run, all eight circulate. And now boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. Okay, we can do the same thing on the left. Left swing through, all eight circulate, girls run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. Or maybe we can add a call to change the original cliche's function from a zero to a conversion. We can do swing through and girls circulate. Boys run, Ferris wheel, and the centers pass through. And what we've end up doing is converting our corner box to a partner box. Now you might have to have a couple get outs for the partner box if you want to work from there, or you can convert it back. From a partner box, you can call box the nat and a right and a left grand, or pass through to the corner for a left allemande. And you can do it from the left side as well. Left swing through, and the boys circulate, girls run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. Building from this one, we can change the ending to just move dancers in the other direction. So how about swing through and girls circulate, boys run, Ferris wheel, double pass through, and the leaders trade. Now, instead of making the partner box our target, we end up in an opposite lady box. From there, if you're calling plus, you can call Dixie Grand right away. Or if you're calling mainstream, you can call 8-chain 3 to a left allemande. We can do this from the left as well. Same idea. Left swing through, boys circulate, girls run, Ferris wheel, double pass through, leaders trade. So perhaps we can change the ending to create a transition. This is the chicken flucker effect. So swing through, boys run Ferris wheel. And now we'll do a zoom and have the center square through 3. So we've changed it from a corner box to a right-hand lady box. We're just changing the engine ending a little to that well-known module. Same thing from the left, same idea. So if we change the sequence beforehand on just about any module, that's a conversion type of module, we effectively reverse the dancer's direction. And so it kind of creates a different experience. We can restore the sequence at the end of the same module, and you get the same, a little bit more variety for the same kind of get out. So for instance, this one, slide through, past the ocean. So now we're in a corner box out of sequence, but it's an ocean wave. Then swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. That's our corner box out of sequence again, and it right and left through restores it. Okay. Now, when we do this, what happens is the people that were stuck on one side of the square are actually moving to the other side of the square now. In this case, it's the paired couple that goes into the center with the Ferris wheel. They weren't doing it before. They were going to the outside. Now they're going to the center. So this technique helps you allow the dancers to experience different parts of the square. So the same thing here, we can go to the left, we can go slide through and say past the sea, if you're calling advanced, or if you've introduced past the sea as a disposable call for an evening. Then left swing through, girls run Ferris wheel, centers pass through, same idea. But you can call an equivalent for past the sea. For instance, slide through and step to a left-hand wave, and then left swing through, and the girls run, and so forth. So in this presentation, I'm using past the sea because it's convenient, and it is sort of the mirror image of past the ocean, but you just have to realize you can get the same effect of past the sea by using an equivalent. Okay, so sequence change at the beginning basically reverses the direction of moving girls when we're dealing with a 4 ladies chain 1/4 or 3/4 effect. So the girls move clockwise, counterclockwise in a 4 ladies chain 1/4 effect. Imagine the squared set. If you called 4 ladies chain 1/4, you would end up with your right-hand lady. Or if you started with your corner, you would end up with your partner. And then if you change the sequence, so the heads do a right and left through in the squared set, that changes the sequence. Now who is on the right? It's the corner. So it acts kind of like a 4 ladies chain 3/4 effect. All we did was change the order, but the effect sort of changes. So slide through past the ocean, swing through, and girls circulate. Boys run Ferris wheel and centers pass through. This turns into an opposite lady box because we had changed the sequence, and then right and left through will restore the sequence. Okay, so now have I completely lost all the new callers, or should we go back and see everything that we've kind of looked at? Do you want to see these? Give me some feedback. I feel like I'm talking to a wall here.
It's difficult to see everything in your head, and I can't quite understand. Well, I don't see the effects of some of the things you said right away. But this really gives me a lot of things to think about. But I can't actually say that I'm following every step of the way.
Okay, let me run through a couple of these ideas live so you can see them. Now, are you going to share, Mel, or?
Just did.
Yeah, great. Okay, so let's have the heads pair off. Okay, so we have a corner box. Now, do I need to do the cliche module itself?
What I've done is I've just been typing in what you had there: a technical 0, the reflection, the corner box to partner box transition.
Oh, great. So maybe you could just run through a couple of these. So the first one is just a 0. It brings everybody back to the relative same position. This one happens to be a geographic 0 where they all come back to the exact same footprints.
Now, the first one you had was the technical 0.
The cliche. Okay. So that's swing through, boys run.
I can reset it right from the beginning if you want.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So the next one then would be the technical 0.
Yep.
Okay, swing through. Now the key here is after we do the swing through, we do an all 8 circulate. And the all 8 circulate is performed when corners are facing the same direction. Okay, that's the key. So continue with the boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. And notice what's happened. When we started, the sides were the paired couple on the outside, but now the heads are the paired couple on the inside. And that is a role reversal for the heads and sides. So the heads are now operating as the paired couple and the sides are operating as the unpaired couple. It's also an inversion in the fact that the ones that were on the end before are now in the center and vice versa. Okay. So then the next thing was the left-handed version.
Yep, the reflection.
So now with the left-handed version, we expect to just come back to these same people. Do a left swing through. Girls run.
You did a circulate in there first.
Oh, okay. Circulate, then we won't come back to the same people. Girls run. Ferris wheel. Centers pass through. And since that's also a technical 0, we're back to inverting the role, the heads and sides again. So the head started out on the outside before, and now they're on the inside. Sides started on the inside, unpaired, and now they're paired on the outside. Okay. What's the next one we've got? Corner box to partner box. Okay. So swing through then. Girls circulate. Boys run. Now Ferris wheel. Centers pass through. So now the point is we've only changed one thing. We've only added a girl circulate in here, and that has changed the characteristic of that module. So your memory remembers that cliche. Say, well, remember if I added one thing, it changes it in this way. So now we have a partner box. So a get out from here. I don't know if you can see this, but everybody's in sequence. You can box the net and a right and left grand. Yeah.
Head pass through element.
Or pass through an element left. Same thing, no big deal. All right, so we're back to the squared set. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Did you get anything else in there?
You then went into the equivalent slide through, pass the ocean, swing through from the corner box.
Oh yeah, okay. For the pass the sea.
And you went here, slide through,
Pass the ocean. Okay, stop there. Ooh, can you go back one? All right. So imagine this ocean wave as kind of modified facing couples. You know, if they were to step backward, you could see that the heads are on the outside and the sides are on the inside. So that is basically an equivalent to a right and left through from the corner box. If the paired couple started on the outside and the unpaired couple was on the inside and you did a right and left through, then the paired couple would end up on the inside and the other one would end up on the outside. Well, this little module that I did here, the slide through and pass the ocean, is basically a right and a left through equivalent, but it does change the formation, but not in a significant way. If the next thing you call could be called with the ocean wave rule, or you know, like I could call a right and a left through right from here. So it doesn't really change anything, but it does set us up to work in the ocean wave. So swing through from here, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. This is our corner box out of sequence. So to restore the sequence, we can use a right and left through or an equivalent. And then we're back to the corner box. So does that help, Helen?
Yes, that's great. I have to see it. I can't. I'm not quick enough to do it without seeing it.
Well, in the interest of time, I may have to speed by things, but stop and tell me to back up if need be. Okay.
If you want to look at that sequence on your own, I've just pasted it in the chat. You can copy it directly, and that'll feed right into Taminations as is.
Thanks very much.
Okay. So let me go back to the slide presentation then.
You'll have to reshare your screen.
Yep, no worries. Okay, so what we were saying about the sequence change is that you basically end up with, it reverses the order in for a four ladies chain effect. If it's a conversion, if you start where you would end up getting your partner, you would end up getting your opposite instead if you change the sequence. Let's just move on to the next slide for now. So when you're dealing with these modules, I'm thinking this in terms of sitting down at the table and writing something new. Not that you do this on the fly, although you could get good enough to do it on the fly, or you could spend enough time with modules so that it just becomes natural to do it from the fly. You know, guys like Mike Callahan could probably do it in his sleep on the fly. And so I'm talking about writing them. And sometimes when you're writing a module, you introduce a trade-off, some kind of problem that rears its ugly head with it. So the module that we were just talking about a minute ago, with the swing through and the girls circulate, boys run. You know, the boys are maybe waiting there for the girls for a moment or two. And Bob Elling really felt strongly about that one. And I didn't feel too strongly about it. There's a lot you can do with timing, and having the boys stand and wait for a girl to show up is not something out of their realm of experience. In other words, men are always waiting for ladies to show up and do something. So that trade-off can be solved if we change the choreography a little bit. So for instance, we could use single circle to a wave and the girls circulate while the boys trade. In this case, everybody's moving at the same time. And this particular one, I would call this, without worrying about it too much, but I would present the first two calls all as one call: swing through and girls circulate. The girls might even get a little step ahead of the boys, and so they cut down the time. One thing I don't understand though is the Color Lab timing sheet for swing through says 6 beats. So maybe it is 6 beats, but everywhere else when you do a trade, the trade is said it's 4 beats to do a trade and 4 beats to do a circulate. So in a perfect world, if we called swing through and girls circulate, boys trade, that circulate kind of masks the time that it takes the boys to do the trade. And so it should all work out together. But Color Lab's saying that swing through is 6 beats. And if you watch dancers, it kind of really is. The boys, I guess, are taking advantage of their momentum, and they get there a little quicker than they would if they were starting from, you know, a standstill and had to do their trade. So this is an equivalent. The single circle to a wave and the boys trade is equivalent to swing through. And just to capitalize on the masking of the timing of this girls circulate, I would call it single circle to a wave and girls circulate, boys trade. And they all sort of end up at the same time. Boys run, Ferris wheel, centers path through. So in the end, basically, you as the caller have to judge whether the trade-off that you introduce by changing a module is ugly enough to change it. And, you know, just for the fun of it, you should try to find all different kinds of variants, and maybe you'll come up with a gem. So getting dancers out of jail. Well, some callers have a tendency to keep 1 or 2 dancers confined to one side of the square. Basically, when they finally let them out of that jail, they do a resolution, and then the dancers might be asking, what's the point? I've experienced this a lot when I'm dancing advanced to certain callers, and I'm stuck over on the side, and people are doing all kinds of stuff, but I get a sense of or clockwise rotation, just a lot of it, and it's kind of overflowish. But I never get away from that side of the square. And if you just break it up by moving me to the other side of the square, it would be more enjoyable for me when I'm dancing.
Hallelujah.
So you have to understand a little bit about how your modules move your dancers and to select appropriate variants so everyone gets a chance to stretch their legs throughout the entire playground. And so some of these ideas can try to help keep your jail open. You can change the sequence. So we showed before in that cliche module, when we changed the sequence, it was the paired couple that went into the middle with the Ferris wheel. That is getting them away from that side where they were stuck in otherwise. So change the sequence and do something. That's one method that you can use. But remember, this has to work with your particular modules. You can use a reflection you should always try to strive for some kind of balance using both clockwise and counterclockwise rotation. So, maybe we use the left-handed version, and that has an effect of getting them out of jail. Or maybe you can use a couple of conversions. Put a couple of conversions in there, and people are going to move from one side or the next. Or you can use a technical zero and transition. So you can insert a chicken plucker in there. That'll move somebody across. Make sure the people that move are the ones that were stuck in that jail. Or you can introduce a grid change. Some of the technical zeros, that invert and rotate module introduces a grid change. You use it, what we're talking about is changing left and right traffic to near and far traffic. Near is the side that's closest to the caller. Far is the side that's closest away. In other words, moving from the number 1 head position to the number 3 head position, or vice versa. And then, or head wall to head wall. And left and right traffic would be sidewall to sidewall. Okay. So here are, here's an example of being jailed. Maybe you could type this one in, Mel, or we could look at this in a second.
1 second.
So anyway, we start off with the head square through. That's a corner box. And then we swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. That's our cliche.
The heck? Don't know what happened there. I seem to have lost your presentation.
Yeah, I think you took the screen sharing out. That's okay. Did you put Chaminations up? Yeah, okay. Because I'm still looking at my slide.
Okay. Examination is up for the rest of us, so you might want to unshare your screen, Michael.
Oh, am I still sharing it?
I'm gonna stop share and then reshare. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I had just got to the near far example, which was from there.
Okay, let me find
8 chain, sorry, from the corner box, and 8 chain 4 is a near far example.
So we're going left to right now. So this is left to right. So from the caller's perspective, the way I look at this, there's the near side, which is the one right in front of me where the head's number 1 couple's back is. And then there is the left-hand side, which is where the number 4 couple would stand. The right-hand side where the number 2 couple would stand when they're home. And then the far side, which is out there with Gary Larson, the number 3 couple looking in, okay? So there's all different ways to tell where you are in the square, and that's one way I think makes kind of a little bit of sense. Left, right. Yeah, number 1 is near, number 4 is left, number 2 is right, and then number 3 is the far side. So if we set up our corner box with the head square through, we're using the left to right grid, okay? So if we swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, we've just done a 0. But notice that number 4 couple is still over there on the left side. He hadn't got out of that left side now. We'll do another 0, right and left through. Veer left. Chain down the line. Slide through. And we're back to the corner box, but that number 4 couple has been stuck at that left-hand side. Now, how about touch a quarter? Scoot back. Boys run. Pass through. Ends trade. Centers run. Star through. Centers pass through. So we gave the heads a chance to go someplace else a little bit, but we still kept the sides in jail. So here is just inserting a couple of those ideas. We can alleviate this problem. So the first one, don't call this one Mel, but the first one is just the opening where we did the swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. Okay. Now we can insert a technical 0 and change the grid. So star through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. I'll use slide through here because I wanted the hand available for the next thing I'm going to do. And we're going to use the second 0 that we called before. Right and left through. Veer to the left. Chain down the line. Slide through. All right, so now we've got, see you later, Rod. Now we've got the corner box that we started with. We just did a 0, but notice that the number 4 couple is on the other side of the square. They got to move over there, okay? And now, how about swing through double? We're going to change the sequence with this one. And now we'll modify the first call in that other 0 we had. Single hinge because we're already in a wave. Scoot back. Boys run. Pass through. Ends trade. Centers run. Star through. Centers pass through. Now we're back to the out of sequence corner box. I think you can probably see that if we did a right and left through or equivalent, we'd have our corner box. So let's just change the sequence and go back to a corner box with this. Star through. Pass through. Bend the line. So now we used part of that invert and rotate module. We've actually grouped the people with somebody different this time. Right after that bend the line, follow with a reverse flutter wheel.
Want to sweep on it or not?
Yeah, sweep a quarter. And we're back to a corner box on the other side of the square. So in this version of almost the same thing that we started when we were jailed, we were able to allow that couple to get out of jail. So you can use the different techniques in order to move them around the square. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this concept? Does it make sense, new callers?
Yes.
I do, Michael.
Yeah.
Instead of that pass through, we have facing lines and then pass through and bend the line. Why don't you do a cast off 3/4 from that and keep everybody moving forward?
Yeah, that's better. In fact, I noticed that, nice to point that out, Phil, that the pass through bend the line followed by our reverse flutter wheel isn't the best flow.
Yeah, just note, was that Phil? Was that you speaking? You're very faint, Phil. You're very hard to hear.
Yeah, Phil was saying, why not use cast off 3/4 instead? That's an equivalent to the bend the line.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so the reverse flutter wheel after the bend the line on that isn't the best flow. Could do, break it up with a do-sa-do or something, or right and left through and flutter wheel or something like that. All right, so Let me move back to my slide presentation. Okay, shared screen. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about zeros. I think most people know what they are intuitively, but I'm just going to give a definition. So all zeros, whether they're technical or true, effectively equal nothing for the purposes of resolution. So wherever you start, if you create a zero, you're going to end up back with the same relative people or with the people who are could create a technical equivalent or in a technical equivalent. A true zero, it's a series of one or more calls that preserves the phaser as well as the membership within a four dancer collection or group. So in other words, four people on one side of the square, that's a group or a collection of four dancers, or I used to call it a foursome. Those people over there, if you move people around and then reunite all of those four people, you've created the conditions such that you could create a true zero by reconstructing whatever phaser you began with. That would give you a zero. Okay. A technical zero, on the other hand, is a series of one or more calls that preserves the phaser while introducing a change in half of the membership. One couple's worth of people, it doesn't have to be a couple formation, leaves a side of the square and goes to another side of the square. And the people that leave are people such that you could reconstruct the same phaser. Okay, if you can't reconstruct the same phaser, then you did not create the technical zero effect. That's all it really is for technical zeros. And it's just as simple as that. You got to make sure that the people that move are people that will allow you to recreate the phaser in the new location. So here's a table of zero possibilities. What we're looking at are technical equivalent setups. Can you see my mouse pointer? Okay, so this area here is the corner box that you'd get after you said head square through 4. This corner box is the corner box that you'd get if you said sides square through 4. If you think about checkerboard dancing, I don't know if you know what it is, but if you're out there calling to a floor and some square just decides, hey, in our square, the sides are actually going to be the heads. And then when everybody else is, when he says head squared through, it would be the sides that do the square through. That gives them a little bit more room to dance on the dance floor. Do you have a question, Mike? Did Mike Callahan have a question? Oh, okay. Thanks. So if when you, whatever you call, if they decide to do checkerboard dancing, whatever you call is going to work out for them as well, because they just replace the heads with sides. And that's all a technical zero does. So this group of 4 here, composed of the side couple paired and the head couple unpaired, is replicated everywhere here. You can turn this around like a spinner on a game board, and it doesn't matter in terms of resolution. Now, okay, it might matter if you're trying to create an at-home zero, so you have to know where they're positioned. But you can call that same at-home zero and not be home and still call left Alaman, and you're still resolved, right? But so if you're going to create a true zero, whatever you call starting from any cell here has to end up in any cell in the same row. It's the heads version is preserved. If you call a technical zero and you start from this one, then you could end up in any of these here. Okay. You have to basically translate the heads version to a sides version and vice versa. If you start here, you could end up with any of these for a technical zero, or for a true zero, it has to be in this row. Does that concept make sense to everybody? Does it, Helen? Got it?
Yes, I think so. I think so, yes.
Okay, so it's just the difference between whether heads did the square through to set up your corner box or the sides. That's the only really difference that we're talking about here. And what we're talking about is creating a module that does this for you. That's the technical zero. The true zero reconstitutes the same membership of people. Number 4 couple number 1 boy and number 3 girl, all reconstituted here. Number 1 girl and number 3 boy are the number 2 couple if you're using the number 1 lady as your focal dancer. Okay, so to create a 0, all you had to do is reconstruct the starting phaser anywhere with the same dancers that originally gathered on one side of the square. Simply return the dancers you moved to the original companions, and then recreate that phaser. So these are all corner box true zeros. And I've just, in the document, there's a few more than these. But basically, here's an idea. You could touch a quarter, split circulate, boys run, pass through, wheel and deal, and the centers pass through. You'll end up in a corner box, and the same people that were in on the one side of the square will end up on the other side of the square. Okay, and this side is a kind of reflection of that side. Left touch a quarter, split circulate. Girls run, pass through, wheel and deal. Centers pass through, right and left through. So if you think of your modules in this way, where you have something that does clockwise rotation, and then one that does counterclockwise rotation, or one that moves the boys with some kind of pattern, and another one that moves the girls with that same sort of pattern. Then you're able to create sort of what Jerry Story was trying to explain as choreographical symmetry, not necessarily mechanical symmetry, but choreographical symmetry. So it's sort of balanced. You know, you have somebody does something and then somebody else does the same thing. Heads do something, then sides do something. Boys do something, then girls do something. We go to the right, we go to the left, or we do it in one location and we do the same thing in another location. That provides variety, and it provides a kind of meaning for the dancers. Okay, a technical 0 is a series of 1 or more calls that preserves the phaser while introducing a change of half in the membership. We just said that. So here's the idea of the groups. Basically, a foursome over here on the left, or foursome on the right, or a foursome on the near side, or a foursome on the far side. So new callers, here's some tips for you. Begin with a corner line or corner box. And after you create that, just know that you have corners. Just know you're working with corners. As long as you keep those 4 people together, you know that you're working with corners on that side. Okay. Now recognize that paired couple within the corner box. And they can be anywhere. They could be here together, or they could be facing each other, or they could be here together, and so forth. So get used to figuring out who the paired couple is, what they look like. Okay. And when they're on the outside, you know you've got a corner box. Create the corner couples. You can look at your focal dancer and then pair that focal dancer up with his or her corner, or you can look at the paired couple and make sure that they're separated from one another. If they're separated from one another and everybody is with opposite sex, then you have paired corners. And you basically take those corners anywhere, and the common dancers remain common dancers. The common dancers in a corner group, let's go back here, are the corners. So you could look at this boy and say that he's facing his corner, and this boy and say that he's facing his corner. The fact that they're facing corners is the commonality. In fact, when they're doing that, everybody else is doing the same thing. You could look at this boy and say that he's paired with his partner, and that this boy is paired with his corner, but a partner relationship does not equal the corner relationship. So therefore, the common dancers are the corners. Okay. So you take those common dancers anywhere, and you'll always meet other common dancers. So that's what I mean by you can change the relationship phasers to anything you want. If you start from a partner box, partners are there. Take the partner with you anywhere, and you can create another partner box, guaranteed. Does that concept make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Me anyway.
So now let's riff a little bit on the invert and rotate technical 0. So this is the technical 0. It's somewhat cliche. Slide through, pass through, bend the line, and slide through. So we know that takes us from one of these positions to this one. This one goes to here. Pass through, bend the line, slide through. Okay, this one goes to here, you know? So basically, you're moving at right angles, so you can change the grid pattern of your traffic from head wall to sidewall, or vice versa. So let's twist this a little bit. We'll twist on the same idea, slide through, and then we'll add, tag the line, centers in, cast off 1/2, touch a quarter, and the boys run. Do you want to do that one, Mel?
Yep. I can get my animations to start working again. Yeah, I think you got to reopen combinations. Yep. Okay, go again.
Yeah, hang on, let me split my screen here. Hang on a second. Okay, so here's the pair off. Here's the invert and rotate module when we're done. Star through or slide through. Pass through. Bend the line. Slide through. Okay, let's do I guess we can go from here. So notice that we moved to the right at right angle, right? If we were to do it again, it'll bring us back to home. So let's do it again. Star through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. Notice what we've done. We actually return people back to their original position. So this is a characteristic that all technical zeros have. If you call them twice, they become true zeros. Okay. So now let's look at the twist. Slide through. Pass through. Tag the line. Centers in. Cast off 3/4. Oh, I'm sorry. Cast off 1/2. Whoop, I blew it.
Don't think it'll do that.
Well, then just do a partner trade. Okay. Touch a quarter. Boys run. And I think you could have done a left touch a quarter and girls run if you wanted to. So that shows you a kind of variety that you can put in here, just a little equivalent. But basically this accomplishes the same idea that we had from the original invert and rotate module, but we have a little bit of different choreography. So it can take the stale and make it a little more exciting for your dancers. But from your perspective, you're done. Bob.
Yeah, well, one of the important things for me with that invert and rotate is the resolve issue. On the first, if you're home, head square through, it's Alaman left, you're home. But if I invert and rotate, I can do Alaman left, right and left grand to end at home, thus giving them variety. So it's set up. It's a setup to what am I going to do as a total get out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's see. Let's try to do something else. We're going to do an end run to move in the other direction. So heads pair off again or square through or whatever you want. Okay, slide through. Right and left through. Pass through. Bend the line. Now what we've done is we've created the sense for the dancers that they're dealing with somebody else right there. And so this is the technical zero effect. We've moved the people that we want, the new people, into a new side of the square, and there you go. So what we need to do now is basically restore the sequence. Ends pass through. Ends run. New ends box the gnat. And everybody slide through. So this is just one little riff that I came up with, but you could come up with all kinds of different things. The idea is once you constitute the group of people in which you could reconstitute that phaser, reconstruct that phaser, you've got the technical zero effect. Here's another half-hearted twist in the other direction. How about from here, slide through, right and left through, and half sachet. Pass through, bend the line. Now notice we went from the heads being paired to the sides being paired in this new group. Touch a quarter and the boys run. Alaman left in your home. So, you know, if we're working from the corner line instead of a corner box, which we can set up from the corner box with a slide through. It's as if we've already done part of that invert and rotate module. So in order to create the same idea, we can pass through, bend the line. Now notice we have moved the common dancers to a new group of 4. They're on a new side of the square. They're looking at new people. Okay, and now if we do a right and left through, we've reconstructed our corner line. All right. Okay, so I notice it's...
Can I just interject for a second there, Mike?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that a lot of people, I've got a couple of comments just pop up and says, well, that's just the invert and rotate module. You just moved the right and you've used the right and left through.
Yeah, that's the point.
Slide through from here, yes. It's the same thing. This is just taking it back to controlling those groupings, that corner grouping, keeping them together, moving around. Because if I did the slide through, okay, there's your dive through square through 3, which is that part of the chicken plucker that was missing. Or if he does the right and left through, same kind of thing. It's just moving that right and left through. You've still got the same invert and rotate. It's just a matter of recognizing that. Or if you remember how it tied in with Bob Elling's presentation last week, instead of doing the chicken plucker right and left through, dive through, pass through, you can just do the pass through trade by. Those corner groupings will move you from that right hand group to the left hand group and how you want to trade them back and forth. Once you start moving them and seeing them, it'll become a lot easier.
Yeah, Bob?
Okay, I just wanted to point out, like a thing I made in my presentation last week. When you did your invert and rotate, it was after a right and left through, and it took you to a new position. And the get out is you're doing right and left through twice. Okay, once you do it once, and then if you insert a right and left through whenever you can, you've got a simple invert and rotate. Does that sound complicated?
No.
Okay. basically, I'll say it like this. Instead of slide through, pass through, bend the line, you do a right and a left through, slide through, pass through, bend the line, and slide through. But you got to do another right and left through, and it always cleans it up, because 2 right and left throughs is a 0. Perfect 0. So if you do a right and left through as part of your sequence, you got to do another right and left through somewhere in the sequence, and it zeroes out to the effect you want.
Mhm.
Yep, which was the next point on my slide. Basically, that is absolutely true what Bob just said, and I think Mel has made the point before that you can sometimes rearrange a right and a left through so that either you can front load it or back load it, or change it in the formation so that you give the dancers a little bit more room. So Daryl had asked about, with sync calls in mind, what about rotate modules? And I guess Oregon folks, I don't know that they dance those things, but is that what you're talking about, Daryl, stirring the bucket?
Okay, let me get back here. What I'm talking about is in a singing call, I don't know, being too picky, I suppose, but a half promenade and 16 beats to me is sloppy. So typically in preparation for something like a load the boat, 8 chain 4, any movements that you're going to use in the singing call figure that's going to rotate that square 180 degrees, then you can have rotate modules to bring it back or prepare for it. Something as simple as all 4 couples promenade half before you do a heads or side square through 4. You can step right into that relay the deuce and have a nice swing the corner at the end of your figure with a full promenade. So that, like I say, picky, I suppose, but I think having a nice handful of rotate modules is nice for the singing calls.
Yeah, and couple circulate works nicely for that, and all 8 circulate works nicely for rotating things. You could do that a couple times. That's a true 0.
Or yeah, or all eight circulate twice.
Yeah,
on your waves.
That's right.
That's a nice resolution.
That's a true 0.
Set up heads pass through, cloverleaf, double pass through, leaders partner trade. It's just a matter of turning that square 180 degrees to begin with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bob?
The singing call, trying to come up with figures for years. They just, for an 8 chain 4, it was promenade, halfway, and sides do a right and a left through and square. You know, they did it like that. But it's so easy to use your first module, invert and rotate, and then you slide through, you do your 8 chain 4, or you replace it with just load the boat for the slide through. Now that just takes the square 180 degrees around, and it's useful to know that for especially those 2 calls, it's just that simple. Of course, you could do the all 8 circulate twice from there, do a right and a left through, pass the ocean, all 8 circulate twice, and you've done it. But what I guess what I'm saying is that slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through is very useful for singing calls also, for a lot of figures.
So it's a little after 3. How are we doing on time? I mean, do you want to stay?
We're fine, but there is something I would like to pull in just to gel what Bob just said and what you were saying earlier. You used a module a little bit earlier with a star through, pass through, tag the line, at which point you did the ends bend. But after following that tag the line, if you did a face in, everybody would have been facing, you're in that line, you would have had your inverted couples on the outside or the sides on the outside, or sorry, heads on the outside, etc. So I've just put that in, just what Bob was saying, using that module that you had. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, so I think the point here is that there are almost limitless variations. you know, you have to be able to judge whether or not they're appropriate for your dancers, the variations that you come up with. But, you know, that's what makes the choreography so interesting, that you can get to certain places in lots of different ways. And,
So
you know, I think
this really brings in what Daryl was saying. If you call swing and promenade, and you've got 16 beats of promenade music, but you've got 8 beats of promenade because you haven't rotated the square, it becomes slot. There's a lot of standing. What Bob was saying is 8 chain 4s or relay the deuces used to be always promenade, half, right and left through, square through, relay the deuce, 8 chain 4, whatever.
Yeah.
You gave a perfect example, so I just wanted to look at that from your corner box, which is there, your standard corner box. That's just filler. Star through, pass through, and then you did a tag the line here. If I just stop that there, if you had everybody face in, you've got the sides on the outside. If I did a leader's trade, center's trade, whatever, that's that corner grouping is leading. So if you do the face in and then just touch a quarter, boys run, there's that invert module complete. I just flip-flopped it from a corner box on one side to the other side, just as Mike was saying. Now your 8 chain 4 takes you to a corner swing and a full promenade for that full 16 beats.
Right. Now notice in that iteration though, it wasn't an invert effect. Basically, that's a true 0, which you just did.
The whole thing is.
Yeah. No, well, the whole thing is, but
oh yeah, it's a flip-flop, sorry, not an invert.
Right. So
rotate.
But that's how you can go from one thing with one idea and create another idea. Phil and I have had all kinds of conversations where he comes up with an idea for a get out, and then we just riff on that get out, and then and we come up with all kinds of different things.
I'm not so sure that star through, pass through, bend the line, star through gives you a full promenade, does it?
No, that's a quarter rotate.
No, that's what the 8 chain 4 or relay the deuce is to do it.
But still, there again, never mind. Pick.
I got a question. Can I stick one in here?
Sure, John.
You gave me an idea here. Oh, my phone's ringing. You know, you got a 7-segment dance call. Can you and usually the first, 4th, and 7th, or everybody goes and does the thing, ends up back at home. Can you make the first one where they do something, they end up 180 out, then do your figure, and then another figure, then do the 4th one where they come out and they end up being back at home, do 2 more figures, and then the last one would be just a standard your closer. I mean, is there a way to do that in a singing call to have them end up 180 out on the figure, on the opener and in the middle?
Basically, that's what it was.
Well, I think that's probably what you were saying. I just trying to convert it to newbie speak. So you can do a figure. The opener will end up, well, they'll do their 64 beats and end up 180 out, right? Is that what you're talking about?
You mean they'd end up standing on their opposite's home position?
Yeah.
For the end of the sing call?
No, for the
end of that figure.
For the opener and for the middle, the opener they'd end up in the number 180 out, and then the middle they would end up back where they started, like at home.
Yeah, if I understand what you're asking, I don't think that's practical because we have trained the dancers to come home at the end of every figure.
Well, we train the dancers.
There are some figures that'll do that, but the caller makes that known well beforehand, or say, don't fix it, or your bucket's stirred. He'll let you know that. But in general, that's more of a gimmick aspect of calling. Most dancers like the swing, like the promenade, like the Allemand left. It's the reward to the figure. And in the singing call, ending out 180 degrees or ending out a quarter in any which direction does not feel right in the singing call.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Mel. just use it as a gimmick if you want sometime, but I wouldn't do it
Well, I think
personally.
it'd be worth exploring once. You know, everybody likes to do a swing through boys run. And you guys in the past have talked about one caller that says that's all one move, and that's what the dancers expected. So they're just dancers, and if you can get them to enjoy it, they could probably be trained to do anything if they like it.
Mel, should we stop this or do you want to continue? I'm perfectly
Yeah.
willing to.
We are at the top of the hour. Excellent presentation, Michael. Michael's going to be sending me the presentation and the slides. I'll send those to Mark as well. So if you want them, by all means. If you do have to leave, please don't feel obligated to stay. But Michael, thank you very, very much. I know there's a lot more to this, and you can go in depth for an hour on any one segment of what you've presented. So it's a lot of material to think about, and very well done.
Well,
I really appreciate the way that you've tied what Bob has presented, what Daryl was talking about, what Kip has presented into this. So all of these sequences flow one way to the other. And although we each have a different way of looking at it, they're all starting to make sense. So thank you very much. And we will probably have you back for more of this, Michael.
you're welcome. So in the document, I tried to use choreography that's applicable to the SSD program. And I stayed away from mainstream and plus and all that other stuff, with the exception of the Past the Ocean, because I was using it, or the Past the Sea, because I was using it as an example of a reflection. But I also gave some equivalents for that. In this document, there's a lot more than we were able to get to here. So if you want to look it over and give me a call or to talk about it, I'd be more than happy to. Or if you want to send me an email or something, that's perfectly fine also. Let me just figure out how to upload a document for Mel, and then he can make it available for you. Let's see.
Well, if you upload it to everybody, you won't have to upload it to me.
Oh yeah, I could do that. If I could figure out how. Let's see.
File at the bottom,
Computer, there it is.
computer, select the document. As long as it's not a Microsoft Word document, it'll load.
Now that's funny.
If it's a PDF, you're fine. If it's a PowerPoint, you're fine.
Send it to me, Michael. I want my copy.
Or if you want, just email it to me.
He can do that too. Michael and I share things.
Okay, there it is.
There we go. So, I mean, if you want to just kind of take a look at this document, you'll see, you'll see that I have a hard time keeping myself under control.
I've known that for years, Michael.
Thanks, Phil. Phil's a new caller in the Oregon area, and I think he's been doing pretty darn good. And you know, he doesn't understand a lot of what I tell him in the beginning, but we just go over it and I'll go over it, and it does sink in. So he can tell you everything about the mechanics, but I don't think he uses it when he's calling. He might use it when he's pushing dolls around a little bit, but he just doesn't think about it when he's calling. But he has been effective by using a small set of modules, a little bit of burn image site calling, and he started to kind of expand with a little bit of extemporaneous wave resolution kind of stuff. And you know, it's a journey. Wherever we are on this journey, there's more to learn. If you get to the point where you don't think you have anything to learn, that's the time to quit. So the doc come through okay?
Yeah, it did.
Good. Now I also have a much more rigorous approach to explaining all this in another document. If anyone's interested in that, I'll send that to them.
Yes.
Oh boy, okay. So does anybody have any other questions about this stuff or want to do any more?
I'm willing to stick around.
Okay. Daryl, you made a comment earlier about the invert and rotate as opposed to just the rotate. So I put both of them up there, and how the 8-chain-4, why it's knowing how to do that.
Yeah, I missed Bob saying the 8-chain-4 afterwards. In my mind, he was using the invert and rotate as the setup. Yeah. The resolution went to the 8-chain-4.
Yeah.
Which
it's still a great point to make, that you can use an invert and rotate if you're setting up an 8-chain-4 when you're in the right-hand quadrant. In other words, everybody's rotated right one couple for the swing and promenade. Works equally as well as if everybody's home for the swing and promenade. And I've just done both of them there. That when you look at it, if you start with your square through, and let's just say you're filling in fluff for the rest of your singing call, but this is your invert, slide through, pass through, bend the line, slide through. The 8-chain-4 brings you right back home for the swing and promenade, as opposed to from the corner box, just the flip-flop takes us to that point where the 8-chain-4 brings us back to exactly the same spot.
But you had the same phaser at either end of it.
That's correct.
That was the point.
That's without changing. The first one changes.
Without the 8-chain-4, you have a one quarter promenade. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. Put back up, yeah.
For the first one, we're inverting it. No, we're not. I stand corrected. Okay, so we've inverted and rotated on the first one. And the 8-chain-4 takes us to home.
Without the 8-chain-4, you still have the same phaser.
Yeah, it's still a corner box. It's
corner
just inverted.
boxes. And if you
Whereas
swing,
on the second one,
there,
I did a side square through.
Right.
I'm not inverting it. I'm keeping the exact same. It's a total 0, just rotated.
Yeah.
And
So,
instead of
the difference would be setting up for an 8-chain-4 rather than setting up for, say, relay the deucey. Timing on a lot of this stuff too comes into play. If you're putting it in a singing call, you have to be a little bit careful about the timing involved in it. Like I say, it's just a picky thing. I know most, or at least a lot of callers, it wouldn't bother them a bit. But having produced singing calls for quite a few years, it was always important to me to try to get full promenades, get the timing right, so the dancers are dancing throughout.
So, Daryl, what do you think about swinging and promenading in the on the right, near right corner? You know, where the number 1 and number 2 man are when they are in the squared set.
I don't think I'm understanding what you're saying, Mike. I'm sorry.
So, in other words, rotating the square by 2 dancers and then swinging and promenading that corner. So,
are they in a grid?
They would be like, say, here's the way to set it up.
Please.
I don't know why relay the deucey doesn't go in there.
Do you have it limited to basics or something, or mainstream?
Don't think so.
Set me up with movements, Michael.
Okay, from the corner box, a head square through 4. Step to a wave, girls trade. swing through, boys run, couples circulate. Bend the line. Slide through. A position like this, Daryl.
You have a 3/4 promenade.
Yeah. So if the dancers are a little slower, do you think this is a acceptable quadrant to swing and promenade from?
Yeah, if I wouldn't make that as any kind of a rule. Understanding it and knowing that that's available, that makes it a module, no doubt about it. And the purpose being to allow more time for slower dancers. So it fits the idea of a module. I'm just not so sure how important that would be to, there's other ways to make up time.
Oh, sure.
I'm not so sure that I would try to memorize this as a module. Now, I can tell you that, and everybody should know, that if you swing with the number 1 man at that number 2 position, they're going to have a 3/4 promenade. If he swings at the number 3 man's position, you're going to have a half promenade. If he swings at the number 4 man's position, you're going to have a 1/4 promenade. Now, the idea of what I don't think I have to re-explain what it was all about with the rotate. The 180-degree rotate is going to give you 16 beats per promenade, which is typically what you get in singing call figures. Now, one of the figures that's bothered me for years, and everybody uses, I've used it, I still use it, be circle left, Alaman left, do-si-do, Alaman left, weave the ring, swing, and promenade, which gives you an 8-beat promenade. Now, I can remember back when we used to swing. That was a really, really good figure timing-wise, because you would do that circle left, Alaman left, do-si-do, back Alaman left, come back, swing your partner, and we go around 3 or 4 times and maybe twirl them out to the promenade. Then you promenade home and you'd swing 3 or 4 more times there and twirl her out before the next figure started. But these days, there again, I'm sure the dancers forgive us for that 8-beat promenade. But when it comes to figures, I think we have enough stock and enough ways to control that we should, and they're not hard, they're simple. Have 2 or 3 at least rotate setups for the singing calls, for those movements that are going to load the boat, relay the deucey, 8-chain-4. If you're going to use those in singing calls, it's nice to have that rotate module so you can clean it up before you get to that. Picky.
One of the things that I've noticed a lot of, and thanks for bringing that up too, Daryl, is on a lot of singing calls, there's a tendency that the opener, breaks, and closer callers take the music for themselves more than the choreography for themselves. And they'll call circle left, Alaman left, do-si-do, Alaman left, weave the ring, and you're only a quarter way round, rather than waiting till they're halfway around to call that Alaman left, so that the weave the ring brings them back to home for the promenade. It is something that happens a terrible amount of time, and it really cuts that promenade into about a 4-step promenade, especially if you have advanced dancers that refuse to promenade on the floor. One of the things that Michael said about the 3/4 promenade, I know a lot of callers now that set up the swing and promenade from the right-hand position just to make the dancers have to promenade, and they'll give that little bit of extra music. That's one of the biggest reasons for the right-hand quadrant swing and promenade to finish, is just to make sure that everybody does promenade, because it's very awkward for them to unpromenade.
And you can
hands go up. Betsy and then Hannah, or was it Lars?
What was Michael going to say about the reply?
Well, you can stack the calls a little bit too at the end in order to take up a little bit of the time that they would have done for the promenade. So you could say scoot back, swing and promenade all at once, and then start your singing if you need to. And that kind of, works out in the end.
I was just going to say, Daryl is old school and wants the full 16-beat promenade, and that's a wonderful thing on a singing call if the dancers will give it to you. And I cannot tell you how much it irritates me when I've set up the figures so they swing where they can do a full 16-beat promenade and they stop. And my statement is, if you want to hear me sing when you're not moving, come to my church. Otherwise, I want you to be walking around. But if I come across with that, I've got the wrong attitude for the dancers, and we're going to be starting to clash. Therefore, I would set up the 3/4 promenade, because at least that way they have to, and I don't get peeved.
It's very rare that you find early entry-level plus dancers and below do not do a swing and promenade. It's usually people that have been dancing plus for a while, or dancers that have a lot of plus dancers or advanced dancers that are there with them learning in class. But I mean, I could be wrong in your area, but most of the places I've gone, if you've got a new dancer class, especially basic and mainstream, they swing and promenade.
Goes back to something, Mel, that I was saying before the session started. You have dancers that go purely for the choreography, not the dance.
Yep.
Not the dance and not the social. They're there for the choreography. And they say, don't bother me with all those element lefts and right left grands and swings and promenade. Get into the good stuff. So, unfortunately, like you said, we're responsible for that. As callers, we are responsible for that. Oh, well.
Now, Lars, I saw you waving your hand there. Did you have a question, or are you just scratching? Anyone else have any questions or comments for Michael?
Just a comment that I frequently use a swing in quadrant 2 if I'm going to be using a grand square as the following part, like in a singing call. It gives them a chance to get set up for it. And there is a difference between a swing in quadrant 2, which is a 7/8 promenade, versus a swing at position 2, which is a 3/4.
Yeah. True enough. There was a couple of comments in the chat, but I think they've been answered, but I'll just go through them quickly, Michael. One was a question: is it a good idea to write modules and just stack them, such as corner box, partner line, etc.? You commented on, you've got to check the output. With that output, that includes, it wasn't in Michael's session, but it's been in everybody else's session when they talked about flow, and he talked about that briefly. That the output includes checking hand availability and body flow. Also calling with a purpose, not just stacking modules. Use modules with a theme or a purpose. You want to achieve something. So if you're looking at something, I believe you mentioned walk and dodge, you want to set up your modules to do that, to use the walk and dodge the way you want to present them and use them. Each module is a movement or a sequence of movements done with a purpose. A question: why don't singing calls always work when you use a technical 0? I think that one was answered as well, because you've got to bring it back. It will work if you're doing a corner box to corner box, but if you're trying something else, it's not always going to work if you follow through, because it's got a different setup. And
well, on the technical 0 thing, it doesn't really matter whether you're using a technical 0 or not when you're dealing with a sing call.
Yeah.
The main thing is the sing call only has a certain amount of time with which you can choreograph it, right? And you need to get those people into a particular location in order to allow for the swing and promenade. So if we're doing it old school, then that means that you're swinging and promenading in the corner while that man is standing on his home spot. That's basically what it means. Yeah. So I can create a technical 0 that does that. So from the corner box, split the outside two, go round one, touch a quarter, and the boys run right. Now all I've done is change the grid, but I'm standing on my home spot. Now I can call another little zero, right and left through, veer to the left, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, swing the corner and promenade, all in that same spot. And I didn't go very far, but that's using a technical zero in the same call, and it's just perfectly fine. It's not the fact that it's a technical zero that causes you grief. It's where they end up.
That's what the clarification was made earlier. The example here was head square through technical zero. If I'm doing a corner box to corner box technical zero, it's got the same amount of beats as the zero in the singing call. It doesn't work out. It's because the technical zeros may have put you in a different location and your singing call is timed for the one that was used.
Yeah, for that matter,
Exactly
a true zero might do the same thing, put you in a wrong spot where you can't swing and promenade with confidence or with enough time or whatever. So what Eric was saying was that he kind of put the promenade a little forward in his calling by putting it in a different spot when he needed to call a sides face grand square, because it lets the dancer settle a little bit. Then he can call the sides face grand square and make sure that everybody can get going. When we're working with new dancers, especially, you call promenade sometimes on the long way and they're slow at promenading. They're not anywhere near home when you call sides face grand square. And so it gives them a feeling of either to rush, or I've even seen some dancers stop right there and then try to do the grand square. And I call on a lot of open floors, so it's not, you know, my dancers that are doing that necessarily or whatever, but it's just, it's some, you know, you have different abilities and you have to be able to read your floor and compensate for that with what you're calling. And Eric's method of doing that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a pretty good idea.
It all boils down to what both Daryl was saying in many early talks and all the time when we talk about modules, and what Mike iterated here. A module or a sequence that you call has to be done with a purpose. It takes you from somewhere to somewhere where you want them to be. There's a specific reason why you call it, and that's why it's a good idea to have, as Daryl was saying, 2 or 3 of these that you know what it's going to rotate it right, or it's going to rotate it left a quarter, or it's going to flip it half. To have 2 or 3 of those at hand when you're calling patter, I think Bob, you mentioned it, it can set you up halfway out to call the Alaman left, right, and left grand to home. They get the reward of the right and left grand. It gives them time to fix it. They've messed up, but they all get home. They get that feeling of accomplishment. It allows you that flexibility, and it allows you that wow factor to say to the dancers, I know what I'm doing and you're enjoying it, I hope.
I have a little singing call figure that I use on my dancers sometimes when they won't do a promenade. It's 4 ladies chain 3/4, heads touch a quarter, boys run, pass through, trade by, boxinette to a wrong way grand, or boxinette to a Dixie grand. Partner left with, or the new partner left with a do paso, and the do paso replaces the promenade. Takes the same amount of beats. Time's out.
Paso ending with a courtesy turn at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one I like. You know, do a do paso with them at home.
That's if you really want to get some strange looks from your floor, if you've never called it that way, call a do paso from home and don't say anything at the end of it, and they're going to wonder, well, what am I supposed to do next? Nothing, you're home.
Yeah.
Not something you want to use as a punitive measure or to teach them a lesson, but it can be fun sometimes. But you should be using a do paso with a courtesy turn more often than not. Bob, I see you chuckling up there. Bob Burr, you had a comment?
I just went through that in my head, and I said, "Yeah, that would have me smiling on the floor."
Anybody else have any comments or questions for Michael?
Just a comment that a technical zero functions as from a phaser perspective, functions as a zero only in 2 of the 4 sequence states. In the other 2, it functions as a 4 ladies chain, and that can explain why some singing call figures that one would put together wouldn't work.
Well, okay, so you're touching raw nerves on me here. A technical 0 is a Jekyll and Hyde module. And so is a transition like the chicken plucker. And a technical 0 module will only function as a technical 0 module if the people who are common dancers end up in the destination group. If anything else happens, it'll end up like a transition. And Eric was pointing to the idea that that's a 4 ladies chain effect. And if you read Color Lab documents, it'll say 4 ladies chain effect. However, there's a 4 ladies chain effect in the technical 0 as well. I mean, with respect to relationships that are moving and the boys that can deal with the ladies, that's a 4 ladies chain effect also. So this whole idea of categorizing it as a 4 ladies chain effect to me is a little bit naive. But if anybody's interested in this, we can go through it and I can explain what I'm talking about. But
well, I think we've got a lot of queries and interest on technical zeros on various other aspects. And I think it's one of those things that we're probably going to be getting in because there's a lot of work and a lot of background material on modules, on setting up, on choreographic flow, on sequencing, and understanding the base premises. But I have a feeling that come April, if we're still doing this, which I believe we probably will be towards the end of April, we're going to be spending probably 2 or 3 sessions looking at zeros and technical zeros in a lot more detail than we have now, just one step at a time walking through them. So that's the plan, so it's something to look forward to.
I thought that Kip might extend the technical 0 discussion a little further at some point. And so I didn't get into it in a lot of depth. I ran out of time too, but if you read through the document, it'll explain what they are and how to manipulate them. If you want a more in-depth, like deep dive on what they are, I have another document. If you want to,
well, I've got Kip Garvey is coming in again on I believe it's the 11th of April.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's going to be talking about applying technical zeros, transitions, and conversions, which is exactly the topic we're into right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I had kind of hoped that I could touch on that today, but just ran out of time.
Yeah. That's our upcoming schedule, if anybody's interested. So next week we've got Dawn coming back with us, and we're looking at it's a follow-up to what Betsy presented when we're talking about identifying difficulty in difficult parts and why things become difficult. Dawn's going to be talking about identifying difficulty in the specific sequences and how to fix it. The following week, Reinhold Rodik is going to be coming in talking about Colorama. If you don't use Colorama, or even if you do use Colorama, it's free to download. It's on his website. If you purchase it, you get all the bits and pieces, but the biggest advantage is you can actually save the entirety of your sequence. And have a look at that. If you haven't got it on your system, you don't have to, but if you want to, please load it up, get a little bit familiar with it. It'll be a little easier. I'm still waiting for a confirmation coming back from Tony Oxendine for the 21st. He's going to be talking about singing call adaptation. We've had a lot of queries about adapting your singing calls and your singing call techniques. This isn't writing singing calls. This is adapting them for the best use for you and the best use for your dancers. We're waiting back on the 28th of February for the Color Lab board to let us know if they can come and talk to us about Color Lab itself. There's been a lot of happenings and a lot of things going on. Ken Ritucci is coming back to talk to us about teaching the unteachable, those unteachable moments that we all have at least once or twice while we're teaching classes. Betsy's coming back to us to talk about programming specifically. And that's one, I think, if we wanted to cover programming in detail, we would probably have about 25 sessions. at least an hour long each, and then we'd just be touching the surface. It's very, very complex topic, so I'm looking forward to that. Barry's coming out at the end of March to talk about note services. Mike Sikorsky is going to be talking about site calling versus site resolution, the battle of the beasts, because they are two different things entirely. And then Kip is coming to talk to us in the middle of April about technical zeros, transitions, and conversions. So a lot of stuff coming up. And as always, Mark Hart is, he'll records the sessions, puts them on the OC Callers website. So they're all there for use. And if there's any documentation, I try and get the presenters to send me the documentation. It's also on the OC Callers website, or you can send me an email, and if I have them, I will email them out to you. So if nobody has any more questions for Mark,
Yes,
I'd like to say,
Mel, can you hear me?
yes, I can. Reinhold?
Yeah, I'm Reinhold Rodick, and since you, Mel, mentioned my upcoming presentation on Colorama, I want to emphasize you do not have to buy it. Number one, if you just download it without paying anything, you have a fully functional software with only two limitations. You cannot save something, basically. So don't buy it, use it first, and if you want the additional convenience of being able to save your routines and so on, then consider buying it. And second, whoever has it, has this free version on the day of my presentation, can get it activated by me for 3 months for free, just to try out the full capabilities. I will present a link where you can go and download it, update it, so it's activated for you.
Yeah, and it's always the newest version, which is great because when you open it up, it automatically will tell you if there's a new update, and you can just click on it and it'll update automatically. And Reinhold is not charging anything for any of the updates if you have the version. So
the only problem is you need a Windows system. I know Terminations is web-based. You can run it anywhere. That's a big, big plus. My software is very complex. It can do much more than Terminations in a much more convenient way. It also shows figurine stanzas in 3D, but it's Windows-based. So if you have a Mac, you need an emulator, and you cannot have it on an Android phone or tablet. So that's the biggest limitation to it.
thank you, Reinhold. And Michael, I do apologize. I just called you Mark and I called Mark Michael, but I want to say thank you very much for coming in again, Michael. And I do hope to have you back with a follow-up. I love especially the way that you and Bob and Kip tie the sessions, even though you come at these things from slightly different perspectives and different uses, it ties it together. And that's one of the important things that we stress all the time. The best system of calling is the one that you find that works for you, that you understand best. And how I do it and how Bob does it and how Michael does it may be different. How you do it may be different than the way I do it. But if it works for you and it works well for your dancers, that's the best system for you to try. So Michael, thank you very much again for coming in. It is much appreciated as always. And if nobody has any more questions for Michael, we'll open the floor up for a general discussion on anything you want to talk about.
So there's a general tradition of kind of working with callers. If you're collaborating on the same stage with somebody, what should you do? Should you just call whatever you want, or should you kind of work with them and try to build upon what they have built? In the document, there's a line in there where I was talking about the column circulate conversion module, which is from a partner line, touch a quarter, circulate, and the boy run, and that gives you a corner box. And I watched Mike Hogan call a variant of that for Get Out on stage, and Michael Kellogg was working with him, and then he immediately followed up with his own version of the same Get Out, except that it was different. So he just built upon what Mike had done. Mm-hmm. And whenever I work with Michael on a stage, we're always trading choreography back and forth. he'll come up with an idea and I'll expand upon it a little bit, and he'll expand upon mine. And then, that's a lot of fun. And and I just kind of took that same idea and tried to meld it into what Bob and Kip had already done. It's kind of a traditional thing.
Tony Oxendine gave a presentation on working with other callers. Two of the biggest things that come out, if you've got experienced callers, they can build off of each other because they don't try and say or show who's the better choreographer. They try and make each other look good and use the same idea. So if, for instance, if Michael did a walk and dodge from facing couples, boy walk, girl dodge, and I was following him, I might do a girl walk, boy dodge, but keep within the same theme of the calling. For newer callers, I always recommend that if you're working with another caller, or if two newer callers are working together, discuss your choreography, discuss your singing call, discuss your ideas and where you want to go with it beforehand. If you get the chance, practice beforehand. It will do you a lot. It makes you sound professional and it makes you feel and flow so much better than going, oh, what the heck was that? And the last point that he made was the worst thing you can ever do to a new caller, unless it is planned or it's in an educational system, is let's say Yolanda and I are sharing a tip and we get up and we're doing a pattern and she's doing her very first pattern to a brand new call and we go head square through, touch a quarter, split circulate, centers hinge, resolve, and leave her the microphone. The worst thing you could ever do to another caller is leave them in a state like that. Unless you have it prepared and it's educational, don't ever do it. Excellent point. That in itself, working with another caller is a presentation. It's all about showmanship more than choreography, but it's an excellent topic.
I think that one just falls under the general category of don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, Chris.
Well, I've been in that situation, and I don't know who the caller is. All I do is call a lot of smooth choreography and then pass it back.
Yep.
And I say, okay, Kip, get them home. And that has actually happened. And I have no problem.
Well, we're not going to say who did it to you.
No, we won't. It's happened more than one time. But yeah, I was in Japan and I was working with oh gosh, I can't think of his name right now. But we're on this stage and there's 80 squares and he did that to me. And I gave it back and then he gave it back to me and I said, who's the corner? And he said something. And he really thought he was right, but he was wrong. So, you know, it's a game. If you know somebody well, you can work it out, but it should always be prearranged, not dropped on somebody. Because the other caller might not be paying attention to what's going on. He's just letting you do your thing. And then all of a sudden you're interjected in there.
Yeah. One of the best solutions that I ever saw a new caller do to an experienced caller who did, it was something very similar, but left it in there. Okay, now they just passed the mic. You take it in the middle of a patter sequence. And what he did was he got him into a box that swing this corner, and then he called a scatter promenade, flying 2, make 4, flying 4, make 8, and did another figure, and then scattered him again, and then said, now you resolve them. And gave it back to him. And it was so smooth and so brilliantly done that it was just caught him so off guard. It was absolutely genius. But you could only get away with that once.
I'll have to remember that one. I love it.
Guido, were you trying to say something there? I saw your light flashing.
Yeah, I have a greeting for Reinhold from his former home.
Oh my gosh. I want some too.
Okay, if any of you are ever around Trockhelfingen, if you plan on coming to visit, bring me a case, will you?
Sure, no problem.
That used to be our regimental beer when I was in the army over in Germany.
I'm sorry, I missed,
beer.
Oh,
I
but
missed
this,
my
this
greeting from
actually is,
home. Oh, aha! Where did you get this?
well, I live in Großhansdorf, which is, das ist einfach in Schleswig-Holstein.
Großartig, großartig. Flensburg, meine geliebte Stadt.
Aber excuse me for talking German. Du kennst wahrscheinlich meine Frau, Edeltraud.
Ah, ja, Edeltraud, ja.
Das ist meine Frau.
Lange her, 20 Jahre her, aber ich kenne sie. Wunderbar,
Let's
danke.
get back to English.
Edeltraud, his wife, they used to know each other 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he showed my favorite beer from my hometown.
I'm surprised I could follow that. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions or anything they'd like to look at, or any of those sequences? Mike's spending some time here. If you wanted to look at a couple of those invert and rotate modules or anything else, it's open. Wow, you've either awed everybody and explained it so thoroughly, or everybody is so confused they're waiting for the written document to figure out what you're talking about, Michael.
I'm not sure that's going to help.
No, there's, with technical zeros, there's a big problem. Just a question to Michael. Do you know the most used technical zero to do a four ladies chain effect? The real four ladies chain effect.
Well, share.
I don't know
I do not know what you're talking about.
It's a VLF Ferris wheel square through 3.
Sorry, say that again, please.
VLF Ferris wheel square through 3.
From what position?
Any position, it equals a four ladies chain, but you don't end up back in the same zero box,
No,
oh, you mean it's from a zero box?
Oh,
that's why he means
you do it in singing calls. You have the boys in front of the right hand lady, and you call a VLF Ferris wheel square through 3 to bring in front of the corner for a swing. Hit square through hits promenade half square through 4, right and left through, and then there's a technical zero. VLF Ferris wheel square through 3.
That is not a technical zero.
Sure.
That's called a get out. That's a get out.
Yeah, but it's a technical zero. It's the same as pass through trade by. It's a technical zero.
Well, it's a technical zero functioning as a transition module.
Yeah.
You're moving from a right-hand lady group to a corner group.
Yeah.
And that.
But that's what I said, doing a four ladies chain.
So there's also a four ladies chain if you keep the relationship the same.
Yeah, but it's difficult in singing calls.
Well,
No, you wouldn't use it for sing call.
My four ladies chain equivalent is to get them into a double pass through called a clover leaf. Boom, you've done a four ladies chain.
No, so I just wonder, how can a module operate as a four ladies chain in one instance but not in another? I submit that it cannot. If you have a set of calls that produces a four ladies chain effect, it will produce a four ladies chain effect no matter what your relationship arrangement is.
When I go into your terminology, well, it's always a four ladies chain, but at the half of the times the boys compensate this.
The boys compensate?
Yeah, to not have a four ladies chain effect, so that you have the same technical phaser, like if you go from a zero box to another, or a corner box to another corner box, or a partner line to another partner line. It's if you have the four ladies chain effect there, but the boys say, no, I don't like that. I'll just do
let's go to terminations and show us.
Mel, score the set.
Terminations.
Score the set, Mel.
It's okay. He has done it.
Instead of him doing a promenade half square through 4, I just did a star through pass through.
Yeah, I understand what Guido's saying here.
You're missing the right and left through, Mel. after the pass through.
Yeah, he wants a right-hand lady box in sequence.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so you see where all the ladies are?
Via left.
Just for newer callers, because it's just so you better understand what they mean by a ladies chain effect.
So, so what Guido means is, so everyone right now is looking at their right-hand lady.
Yep.
Okay. So when he's done with this, they'll be looking at their corner.
Yep.
And the corner is opposite or across the square from the right-hand lady in the squared set. So therefore, we have effectively accomplished a 4 ladies chain. So now you're looking, everybody is looking at their corner.
So we have everything the same. We have the same formation. We have the same arrangement. We have the same sequence. The only thing that's changed, and technical zeros that do that, is changing the relationship.
So now have the centers back out or face in and back out to score the set.
Yeah.
Okay, now have the head ladies chain. Now, if you notice, the sides are paired with their partner and the heads are paired with their opposite lady.
Mm-hmm.
Now call all 4 ladies chain. Now we have the heads paired with their partners and the sides paired with their opposite ladies. Everybody agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so let's have the sides lead left. So we haven't changed any of the pairings. The head couple is still with his partner and the side couple is with the opposite lady. Okay, ladies chain. Okay, so now the heads are looking at their partner and the sides are looking at their corner. I mean, they're opposite.
Okay. Opposite.
So if we did a 4 ladies chain, the sides would be looking at their partner and the heads would be looking at their opposite.
Yep. But now you have changed the sequence of the girls.
I don't care.
But I do. For technical zero, you need to have the right sequence.
No, technical zero. We're talking about a technical zero, and from this position right here,
yeah,
pass through and trade by.
Yeah.
The problem that we have is a lot of the conversation and connotation of a technical zero is based around the premise that a technical zero does one function and that it changes the active dancers. So if your heads are on the outside, it changes them so that the sides are on the outside, but maintains the same phasar. That's not always the case. In some cases, like a fractional zero is also a technical zero, and it might be 3, it might be 4, it might be 5, it might be 6 times through to make the zero. That's still also a technical zero, but it's a fraction. Some of the transition modules are also technical zeros because they can achieve the same function. It technically zeroes out to the same function, but it transitions from one stage or one phase to another.
Well, let me just say
what you're getting into is a very complex digression onto all of those aspects of what zeros do, what the actual modules do, and what transitions do.
Yeah, so can you go back 2 calls? Okay, so if we look at this and try to determine the phasor is, if I was going to say what it was, I would say that it's an 8 chain through, normal couple arrangement.
Yeah.
In a mixed sequence.
Mixed sequence, and then the relationship is corners. That's how I would say what it was.
Sides have opposite.
No, but if you look at the group that is there, the common relationship is a corner.
Okay.
The boys can both point to their corners. In fact, they're paired with
for
their
the
corners.
newer callers, did you understand what they meant by formation, arrangement, sequence? Okay, so the formation is an 8-chain 4 formation. The arrangement is normal boy on left, girl on right. The sequence, if you look at the boys, 1, 2, 3, 4, the boys are in sequence, but the girls 1, 4, 3, 2, the girls are out. So it's a mixed sequence, girls out.
Yep,
and the
boys in, girls out.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the relationship is hard to determine in a simple connotation because you've got, in the old vernacular, this would have been easy, but this is a 1-4 on the outside, 1-1, or a partner, heads partnered, sides opposite relationship.
You could say it in a lot of different ways. You could just say boys are paired with corners. But from the way I look at this, it's the group relationship, the one that is common within that group of 4 that should be assigned to the phaser. I know that Colorlab hasn't articulated this, but I have talked to many accredited caller coaches, and they all give me different answers for this phaser thing. I even called Betsy up to ask her, hey, is there anything written down about this? And she pointed me to Dottie's document, and Dottie's document doesn't really explain relationship or sequence very well, in my opinion, for dealing with phaser. Okay. So what are we doing here?
Okay, I was just showing because I saw a couple. When you're talking about that corner grouping, there's your corner line.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
So that was your corner grouping. Everybody, if you look at that group, like everybody has their partner as their corner as their partner. So if I did a head square, or sorry, a side square through 4 and follow that with a slide through, that's where we would end up.
Okay, go back to the box again. Okay, now 8-chain 4. Oh, wait a minute.
Doesn't do anything.
8-chain 2, sorry. I shouldn't have said 4.
Pass through trade by.
Same thing. Okay, this phaser is exactly the same as the other phaser. It's a technical equivalent. Okay, so the boys are
technical equivalent. It's not the same.
Okay, now explain to me this, because the phaser, there's no differentiation between a corner box that is created from the squared set with head square through 4 or sides square through 4.
When I look at boy number 1, he still has his corner at his hand, but he's looking at the opposite, for he was looking at his partner.
Yeah, so there's 4 ladies chain.
Different.
4 ladies chain.
No.
Why not? It's exactly the same.
Sure. Mike, when I gave my presentation last week, I talked about a box. If boys are all in sequence, but girls are not, pass through trade by technically is a 0. You get to use the same get out. Now the get out here would be boys reverse the flutter. And yeah, so that's that. Or if the boys are out of sequence, but the girls are in sequence, it has the same effect. And I purposely use this, and I'm going to do a get out, and my get out is reverse flutter. Well, why don't I do a pass through trade by reverse flutter, and it gives me my corner.
Where the issue comes into this is understanding the concept of actually what's happening. When you talk about a technical 0, maintaining the phasar. So for instance, the invert and rotate is a technical 0 because it goes from a corner box to a corner box. You've just swapped the outsides and the insides. And what Michael is saying is exactly correct. This is also a technical 0 in that it has not, it's going to the exact same phasar. This is an 8-chain 4. You've got the boys in sequence, you've got the girls out in sequence, and we're normal couples. We're in exactly the same phasar, but the resultant outcome is not the same. For instance, if I did a veer left and bend the line, am I in a corner line again? Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I am, everything is exactly the same as it was. The outcome is, all I've essentially done is flip my active dancers from the inside to the outside, or in this case, from the right side to the left side. It's still exactly the same kind of setup. It's just, I've now got the number 1 man on the inside instead of the number 4. That aspect of it is a technical zero.
But the smart part of this is, if you use that from a same sequence setup.
Yeah, I would submit that it's the pairing that makes a difference, not the sequence. But what you're doing.
No, it's a sequence. When you use the same sequence setup.
Yeah, which means that your pairing has the common dancers in this case.
If it's still a mixed sequence. But now you have a lead left box.
Sorry.
Lead right box. And it's still mixed.
No, it's just out.
No, it's still mixed. The boys are out of sequence, the girls are in. Now it's you need to have the centers or the end or the outsides get rid of their current partner and exchange it with the other one.
Well, everyone is in sequence here, Guido. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is what you want?
Now everybody is in sequence, yeah.
Yes.
And if you now do a pass-through trade by,
yeah,
then you have an effective 4 ladies chain.
Okay, all right. So now let's just take a look at that module. Pass through trade by.
If you swing here, you have somebody totally different than if you had before.
But pass through trade by in this case is operating as a 4 ladies chain.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Before, I'm just agreeing. Before we were looking at our corners, and now we are looking at our opposites. So that little module that we just used, pass through trade by, has the effect of 4 ladies chain.
Yeah.
It shouldn't make any difference who's paired with whom. Mel, can you have the sides pass through?
From here or from a static square?
From here.
Yeah. I put my cursor here.
And can you have the sides U-turn back? Now we have this this phaser here, and the boys are still in sequence. The girls are still in sequence. So if we do a pass-through trade by from here.
But that's a different arrangement.
I know it is, but the point is the module pass-through trade by still has a 4 ladies chain effect. We're looking at our partners now. If we did it again, we'd be looking at our opposites. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mel, let's see, star through.
But just one thing. Yes, you did it, but you changed the phaser. You changed.
I know I changed the phaser.
But
that's the whole point of what he was saying. If we go from the corner box and we do the sequence, we're going to end up in that corner grouping. We'll have exactly the same phasar. If we do it from a different type of situation, we've still got exactly the same.
But if you're talking about a zero, but if you're talking about a zero, you should have the same arrangement after the zero, after the sequence. And here the sequence was changed. You have the boys on the outside with the pass-through trade by. You have the boys on the inside.
No,
that's a change. That's a change of arrangement.
Ignore the fact that we changed where the boys and the girls are. Pass-through trade by is a ladies chain effect. So our phasor right here is going to flip the boys to the inside, girls to the outside. But what we're looking at, we've got relationship, or sorry, the formation is Nate chain 4, the arrangement is boy, boy, girl, girl. The sequence right now should be out of sequence, I believe. Now in sequence.
Yeah, but the
And the
arrangement changes from 1 to
relationship
2.
is there. So if we add the pass-through trade by, okay, although we're looking at different people, we've still got, we've changed the phasar in this case by changing that boy-girl relationship.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's not a 0.
That ceases to be a technical 0 from that phasar, from this phasar. And that's why there's transitions that will only work in certain setups. It'll work all the time from a standard boy-girl arrangement, but you change that setup, it's not going to work from a boy-girl-girl arrangement.
The key to
same calls.
The key to creating a technical 0 is to take the common dancer relationship and move them to another side of the square.
You also change the sequence. So
you can't change the sequence if it's a technical 0, because then it
no,
wouldn't be a 0.
A technical 0 does not change the sequence. A 0 does not change sequence. It doesn't change arrangement, doesn't change formation. Then it's a 0.
Right.
And here you change arrangement and you change sequence. It's two things.
Okay, but Guido,
you didn't change your relationship
the technical 0 module. The technical 0 module is pass through trade by. That is the technical 0 module. Now, when you change the people that are moving across from common dancer to anybody else, it operates as a transition. In other words, we're going to go from, we're going to change
that's where we get the phrase conditional 0, which I don't think is used much anymore. I think that was dropped somewhere in the.
Well, I think they say sometimes 0 in some readings I've said, you know.
It used to be called a conditional 0, meaning it's a technical 0, but only from specific setups.
But
the essence of this is it is pass-through trade by is an equivalent of a ladies chain pretty much all the time.
Exactly. It is
a conditional 0 from specific types of arrangements.
That's correct. Once a set of calls performs an
effect,
a kind of output, it's always going to perform that kind of output.
The thing that bothers me here is you cannot have the same get out as before.
No, because it's not a 0. I mean, it's not a 0.
Yeah, but
all right, do this, Mel. Star through. Ferris wheel. Center's reverse wheel around.
Then we're in the lead right box.
Yeah. Get out, swing through, right and left grand.
Right.
Okay. Pass through trade by.
Yeah.
We're all looking at different people. The heads were looking at their right-hand lady, and the sides were looking at their corners.
Well, yeah, it was still a lead right box.
It was.
The first one was a head lead right box, and the other one was a sides lead right box.
And that's why we're talking conditional 0. The pass-through trade by is the conditional 0. It will always be a ladies chain effect. It's equivalent to doing a ladies chain without changing the formation of the arrangement.
That's correct. So to distinguish,
if it's a conditional 0, it will work from a standard couple arrangement, but it will not work from a mixed couple or a boy-girl-girl arrangement, because that changes the sequence.
If you'd use the same sequence and the same get outs from an regular HN through from corner box HN through formation, then you'd have a 4 ladies chain and a real 4 ladies chain.
Yep. Absolutely.
What is a real 4 ladies chain? If I start with my partner, then I should end up with my opposite. Correct?
Yeah, but in a lead right box you don't. And
no, but if I had my partner to begin with, I should end up with my opposite. That's a real 4 ladies chain, right?
Okay,
That-
from
that's the
here,
four ladies chain effect. So what I've done is from a four ladies chain, head square through takes me to there. The four ladies chain effect on the pass through trade by takes me to the corner block. So I've gone from the transition, same formation, same arrangement, same sequence. All I've changed is the relationship. The relationship change is the four ladies chain effect.
Yep.
That pass through trade by will always create that ladies chain effect, but
That's
it's
correct.
not always a zero. If you're in a lead to the right, it's going to change a lead to the right to a lead to, or a heads lead right to a sides lead right.
Yep.
Here it's going to change. It's just going to do the four ladies chain effect. In other words, change the relationships without changing anything else. That's why it's conditional, depending on where you start it, where you set up. And there's probably a half a dozen of this. I can't remember who wrote something on that, but it used to be on not Bill Peters. Who's the other guy with the
Bill Peters did too.
Docebo.com. I think there was an article on that, on conditional zeros. But that's a long time ago.
Well,
Yes, Bob.
Okay, go back to squared set. And it's the same thing I said before. Heads lead right. You're in a box. It's the boys who are out of sequence, but the girls are in sequence.
Yeah, it's a mixed sequence.
That means if you pass through trade by, it's technically a zero. The get out is the same because some were in and some were out. And it doesn't matter what you call it. You could set it up to an opposite lady box. Well, if you pass through trade by, the get out's going to be the same if one of the two dancers is out of sequence.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the technical terms for that. I just remember sequence. If I change the sequence, pass through trade by is a zero.
Yeah.
If they're all in sequence, like do a reverse flutter wheel, everybody's facing the partner. And if I do a pass through trade by, they're facing the opposite. Then, you could say that's a four ladies chain effect. Everybody's facing the opposite. They're in sequence.
And they're out.
So it's just a simple matter of knowing, is it two dancers in sequence or four? And when you're in boxes and you do a right and left through,
now they're in sequence.
Now you pass through and trade by and do another right and left through. Remember, two right and left throughs. Everybody will be facing their partner again in sequence.
No, now they're out of sequence.
Out of sequence. You have been in sequence before.
Yeah. Everybody's out. I said that wrong.
Yeah,
but
you
they
did a
were
lead
out
right instead of a lead left. That's all.
Yeah. When I was on the other side, they were out of sequence too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you just started with a lead right instead of a lead left.
Yeah.
Mel, how about this one?
Hang on, before we go to the next one, for any of the newer callers that are still sticking with us, is any of this making sense to you?
Sort of, in a way. It also made me realize why I was having so much trouble when I was trying to play with the terminations before, and I did something simple like a pass-through trade by, and it came out completely
One
different.
of the things that I really want to stress on this is when you're looking at this, don't look at, okay, I got to know the formation, the arrangement, the sequence, the relationship, all of this, and this transits from here, but it only works from this place to this place. Just focus on, if I call pass-through trade by from normal couples, I'm not really going to change anything. I'm doing a ladies chain. So if you set something up with a ladies chain, you can call a pass-through trade by if you're normal, and get the ladies to chain back. You know, it's that if you're aware of that, it allows you a little bit of freedom of movement to build on your choreographic sequences. So if you want to move the girls back, instead of saying swing through, girls circulate twice, you can just do that pass through trade by and achieve the same type of effect of the ladies chain.
Okay.
You understand? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
Head square through. Do-sa-do and veer left.
I know a lot of callers that would shoot you for that.
That is very smooth.
I know it is. It's not my argument. I get in this discussion with the callers all the time. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, that's not smooth," when actually it is if you dance it properly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have the girls hinge. Okay, so what is this phaser?
Oh,
It's right-hand diamonds.
Sorry, go ahead. Why don't you tell us, Yolanda? What's the formation?
Okay. So in plus it would be diamonds.
Okay, it's not plus. It's just.
But
it's
so
diamonds.
is it? So would it be like a? It's not. It's sort of like a quarter tag, because there's 4 in the middle and there's 2 on the outsides. But I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, no, it's diamonds. And
Your right hand following diamonds.
Draw a box around the diamond, and which box is it? Who's in the diamond?
Well, just draw a line between the 4 and the number 2 ladies, and then you've got 2 diamonds.
Right, but what's the relationship of all the people in the diamond? Each boy, which girl is in the diamond that is common to everybody? Okay.
It's a corner?
You got it. It's a corner box, a diamond. A box.
So this is one reason why I said that the phaser, the common relationship for the phaser should match the common relationship in a group. Because if you always talk about the relationships as being a pairing, I think you're not really understanding what relationships are.
Yeah, so we've got the formation, got an arrangement.
Arrangement is 0 arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a sequence. Are the boys in sequence?
The boys are in sequence. Now, are the girls
I'm
in or out of
talking to
sequence?
Yolanda, Michael, you know this.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Girls are out of sequence.
And
Just doing this. You guys are doing just fine.
so we've got a mixed sequence. Okay.
Let me just ask Yolanda why Guido thinks the girls are out of sequence.
Well, that's not fair. He was doing my thinking for me. Okay, so 1, 2. Well, they're not in the right order. That's all, right? So
how do you determine their order?
because they're not like well, because in my head they're not in a squared set formation. If you follow the square set formation. Because it's going 1, 2, 4, 3 instead of.
There you go.
1, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yolanda, do you know how an ocean wave should look like?
I was just looking at the girls.
Yeah.
Because we're doing mix, right? So I was looking at the girls.
But how should an ocean wave look like?
I thought the question was, are they in sequence or not?
Yeah.
And
how do I determine that?
by looking at, in my head, I am equating it to, are they in the same order that they would be in a squared set? That's how I'm thinking. I don't know how you guys are thinking, but that's how I figure it out.
When you look at the definitions of balance, balance says in an ocean wave, you have to take a step forward, close, take a step backward and close. And your hands should not go behind your shoulders. So you have them a little forward. So the picture here is not correct to an ocean wave as it is defined in the definitions of the for an ocean wave in balance. So you have to move the girls a step backwards, and then you have a rectangle or a parallelogram or something.
Okay, now you're over my head. It worked just fine when I did my own
No,
type of thinking.
look at this. Look at this.
Oh shoot! And there just went my thing.
This is how the girls should be in that ocean wave. And now you can see if they're in sequence or out of sequence.
Picture their hands joined in front of them in the actual ocean wave. So an ocean wave is just a box in a different arrangement.
Exactly.
It's a box with the hands joined.
So if you have them back up to make a box, then you can see their sequence. Then they step to a wave, and it's the same sequence. You're applying that.
Do you understand that?
I think what she was doing was she was analyzing it by just looking at only one of the diamonds and considering that to be like a circle in a sense, and that was the way she was doing the analysis, and she could see that the girls were in the wrong order.
Now, from this, we looked at formation, we looked at arrangement, we looked at sequence, we looked at relationship, and we looked at what do we call this thing. Now, if you remember back to my second lesson about the names of all these formations, these diamond formations are 99.9% of the time a transition formation. So what do I usually call that? Who cares?
My laptop is about to die. I need to go and get my cord.
Yeah. That type of arrangement in a transition falls into a who cares, because I would not look, personally, I don't worry about looking at sequences or relationships when I'm in diamonds or in T-bones or in galaxies or anything like that. I get to the standard common formations where I can do an all 8 circulate or do a couple circulate, move the dancers and have a look. Because these, when you have a linear formation between, or a quarter tag linear formation or a quarter line formation, is very difficult to determine what is the sequence. A quarter line would have a different sequence altogether.
That's a fair point, and one I have made in writing as well. But
the thing is, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead,
yeah. So the girls are in a left-hand wave now, huh?
No, that's where we were. Oh,
we have a facing diamond now.
I forgot I did a lady's turn back there.
I think that if you put him back here, I think what she was looking at is this. Can you have the girls quarter in?
No.
Yeah, that was my.
I was just making.
What she was looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, Yolanda, everybody that we've talked about sequences, if you go around, they're like strings on a pearl. If they're in a line, you go 1, 2, 3, 4 along the line. And if you look at the girls, they're in a line, it goes 1, 2, 4, 3. That's out of sequence.
Exactly.
But in an ocean wave, you have to look at an ocean wave as a box when you're going around. So you go 1, 4, 3, 2. It's a really, really odd way of looking at it, but it's just a relative comparison.
I don't know. Then if the girls trade with the right hand, are the girls in sequence?
Yes.
Using your numbering, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's 4, 3, 1, 2, or it's 2, 1.
No, it's not. It's 4. Sorry, it is 4, 3, 1, 2.
So that doesn't work.
It's 4, 3, 2, 1. You got to remember, you got to skip because they're facing boxes. So 3 and 2 would be 3, 2. There.
3 and 4 face.
4, 1. Sorry, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, that's it.
This all seems incredibly complicated to me. Can you have girls trade and roll?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just have the girls trade and roll, or quarter in, or however the program will do it.
The problem
Okay,
with
so now just look at the one of the so look at two things. Look at the boys are around the outside, so that's like where they always are in any normal thing, and you can see they're in sequence. And then now just look at one of the diamonds. Look at, say, the diamond on the left, and and if you were going around the circle there, right, you can see that we got one, and then the girls are out of sequence, and then the boy, he's in the right place. The girl on that diamond, she's in the wrong place. So the girls are out of sequence, but the boys are in. I think that's what she was looking at.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
not quite. I got the right answer. Remember that.
Oh yeah, we know. Yeah.
I took all 4 of the girls and I sort of turned them into a circle, and they were not in sequence in the circle.
Yeah.
As if it was a squared set equivalent.
Basically, step back, join hands, and what's your order?
So, Color Lab says that the sequence for the girls here is indeterminate. And
there
the same thing for the ocean wave that they were in. They say that is indeterminate.
And this goes back to one of the biggest things. Daryl mentioned it earlier. This is one of the biggest problems that we had with calling. This is one of the biggest problems that we had with dancing. I was just watching the clock on this. We've spent over 8 minutes discussing, are the girls in sequence or not in sequence? When the relative answer is, really, who cares? Because what would we do? What would change with our calling from where we were? If I go here, what would we change in our calling if we stopped and had an 8-minute theological seminary about, are the girls in or girls out? What would we call next to make a difference? Really nothing would change in what we're doing. We'd either do a center ladies trade, or we do a diamond motion, or we do a boys face and extend, something like that, to get to somewhere where we're comfortable, and we would determine flow to set up some kind of pairing relationship.
Mel, would you have the girls cast off 3/4 and roll?
Yep.
Now, what's the sequence for the girls?
They're out.
The sequence. Girls step to a wave. You assume they're still out of sequence.
Correct.
And Michael is correct.
That they're in right now is 1, 2.
And Mel is correct. In most cases, it really doesn't matter. For me, it matters when I draw my pictures, my diagrams. I have to give them a name, and the name I give them is a phaser. And I have to sometimes be creative to get to something that is defined right. If calling, the phaser here, if the girls or the boys are in or out of sequence, only is necessary for me to know when I want to have a specific get out from there.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with the phasers and all of the different kinds of terminology is that they're only used for one thing, and that's for communicating between callers. And one way of communicating between callers, besides just talking about something, is talking about which module will start, which say get out module needs to start from a particular phaser. But like when I'm writing choreography, I never think about the phaser or anything. I just put the checkers where I put them. In my case, I draw them on paper instead of using physical checkers. Same thing as checkers, and you just look down there and are the boys where they need to be? No, well, put them where they need to be. The same thing with the girls, if it's time to get out or whatever. But at no time from beginning to end when I'm writing a sequence do I think about what the phaser is, because I don't care. I can see it's the thing in front of me.
And that's actually the the beauty of calling, because I know two callers in particular, David Cox and Alan Kerr here in Australia.
Yep.
If you look at the figure on the wall behind me here, okay, that's how they think when they're calling. Their minds are like that. Me, I look at this and I go, oh my God, I haven't got a clue where the hell you are. Give me a second. I've got to get my checkers and figure this out. Even, 2 o'clock in the morning when we're talking simple choreography. I get there in the end. My relative aspect is the term phasar. When you describe a setup, a formation, arrangement, a sequence, and a relationship, it has one purpose, and that is so that when you are talking with another caller, that other caller knows where you are. If I say you're in a corner box, if I say you're in a box 1-4, if I say you're in a 0 box, or if I say you're in a head square through box, does it really matter? You know where I'm talking about, you know where the dancers are. So that if I give a phasar state, and I say from here, you can do this as a get out, or you can do this, or here's a technical equivalent works from this phasar state to that phasar state. It's a reference for communication and understanding, and that's what a phasar state is. It has a lot to do. If you're a mental image caller, what we were talking about earlier with that pass-through trade by, that's a ladies chain effect or an X effect if you've read Dawn's book. Okay, it's a ladies chain effect. Oh, okay, that's got it. Is it a 2 ladies or just 4 ladies chain effect? What's it doing? Those are the kinds of things, and their relative importance is based on what application of calling or how you're going to look at calling.
Right. If I'm talking to another mental image caller who uses the same system that I do, the kind of we use completely different terminology. We never talk about any of these things. We'll say it's an 8 chain 3 and it's like condition 03 or something like that. But it's completely different terminology because we're keeping track of something completely different. But we still know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, and then it's like if I said an L5 1W, somebody would know what it was. You'd know. Okay, we're talking a half sashade wave here. Okay, yeah, great. A half sashade left-hand wave. It's a reference that's important that the two people in communications. I use a formation like this one on the screen to really illustrate the point.
Yeah, it's a fair
Callers
point.
could sit down and they could describe that formation about 40 different ways, and they would be right. My answer to that is, who cares? That formation has no relative use other than the fact that I got there symmetrically, and if I was going to teach resolution or something, you can get out of this symmetrically using any proven resolution technique without a problem. It doesn't matter what it's called. It's a matter of understanding how to move dancers into a place where they're comfortable, that they could go and use whatever they're comfortable with to expand their own knowledge base and grow from there. And that's really what's important. Does anybody know the perfect resolution for this? One movement. There you go. Because it falls into that category of when you got to work that hard to find a resolution, it's better to quit and start over and give the dancers a good time, because a caller that does that is calling for the caller, not for the dancers.
If there wouldn't have been out of sequence, I would have had one. It was just.
Can you go back to the diamond after the ladies chain?
Sure.
Okay. From here, girls swing through.
Boys first in.
Boys circulate.
Ooh. Okay.
So what's the question?
That's a technical 0.
But you have changed the sequence of the girls with the swing through.
Okay, so the girls are now in 1, 2,
4.
3, 4. That's their sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I do ladies swing through.
No, the girls are in 1, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, you're going, I'm going the other way around. That's okay. I'll give you that one. Okay. Now, if you're going clockwise, what sequence are the girls in here?
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're going clockwise.
No, sorry. Now I'm in your direction. It's a 1, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, and then you had the boys circulate.
Yep.
Okay. So all I've done is change is the partner pairing, but I've got my sequences and I've got my arrangement is the same.
Yeah, the only thing that's changed is the sequence of the girls. Before they were out of sequence, now they're in sequence.
No, the girls are out of sequence. Excuse me.
1, 4, 3, 2.
They're
So
out of sequence.
We all agree they're out. Yeah.
Yes.
And after the swing through, they're in.
1, 4, 3, 2. You're shaking your head, Don.
I think they're out of I think they changed sequence as well.
Well, the girls are out of sequence.
I think the girls are out of sequence as well. Doesn't change.
Oh, you think they're
Them
out?
up, and you can tell.
Hang on.
Well, so this is an example of are they in or out, and what does it matter? So the question is, we had a resolution that we could have used before, and we'll just pick one or make one up or something. And then after we do this technical zero, can we call that same resolve again or not?
It's funny. The girls don't change the sequence.
No, they don't.
I've learned something new here.
Okay, so from here you could do, for instance, flip the diamond. Extend.
Yep.
And then
Swing,
whatever,
Richard,
swing,
or
right
something.
and left grand, whatever. So the other diamond, same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now where are we here?
Well, the other one was what? Pair off and veer left and girls hinge.
Yeah. Now you can set
Exactly
this
the
up
same
different
sequence
ways,
for the
but
ladies.
circulate 1.5.
It's exactly the same sequence for the ladies. It's just it's inverting the diamonds.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's because you do not get a ladies chain effect when all you're doing is a swing through with the ladies.
Okay.
But you do when
swing through with the ladies.
When the ladies are in a wave, a swing through is trade by the right. That's a ladies chain. Centered ladies trade. That's another ladies chain.
That's correct.
What happens if you chain them over and chain them back? No
Same
change.
thing. That's why it says if you've got the same gender, it changes. It's the same with the same discussion that we had with the technical zero earlier. If we had a boy-girl standard normal relationship, it would work. But when we changed the parameters to have boy-boy, girl-girl, it changed the whole outcome because it doesn't achieve, it's still a ladies chain, but it changes that relationship. Those conditional zeros are different depending on what is set up. Ladies in an ocean wave, a swing through is trade or trade twice. It's a ladies chain over, ladies chain back. That's what the effect is. In other words, they're going to maintain the sequence.
Can you go back to the diamond?
Can I ask a question? Before you, while it's still on there. So is this still considered a diamond for the formation, or is it called something different?
This is a 3/4 tag.
3/4 tag. A 3/4 tag.
Yeah. You know, you got
yeah.
Because there's 6 in the middle and then there's 2 on the outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got your wave in the middle and the outside dancers are facing out. So if I had a facing couple or if I did a half tag, I've got a wave between facing couples.
Mm-hmm.
If I do a half tag, I've now got 2 ocean waves. If I do 3/4 tag, I've got the trailers are now in the wave and the leaders are facing out. And if I do a full tag, they've gone all the way through.
It's okay. I just figured out there's another formation I didn't know. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, where did you want me to go?
You go back to the diamond.
That's
So, Yolanda correctly drew a line to. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just go back to this 3/4 thing? I was just trying to diagram it out for a minute. Please.
Okay. Easiest way to do that, Yolanda?
Or does it matter?
No, that's fine. We'll deal with it.
Okay.
Don't worry about the rudeness. Okay. So don't worry about the gender or anything else. Okay, so if I do 1/4 tag, whoops. Okay, that's an ocean wave between facing couples.
Yes.
Okay. If I had done a half tag, that's where I would have ended up with parallel ocean waves. You see that?
I'm drawing.
Let's do this.
Restate the question because I'm trying to draw this out so I can. I'm trying to draw out all the formations on cards.
Did you understand the 1/4 tag?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a wave with 2 facing couples.
Okay, so here's a half tag.
Okay.
If I do a half tag, I end up with 2 parallel ocean waves. You see that?
Okay.
Okay. And if I do a 3/4 tag,
But does it matter? And it
They're
doesn't matter
facing
if
out.
they're normal or they can also be half sashayed.
the
Like
formation,
they're half. Actually, they're half
and-
sashayed now, right?
Yeah,
But,
that's into arrangements and sequencing. All we're
Okay.
talking about is formation.
okay, so it doesn't matter. So they're just. It's a matter of
And
6 in the middle and 2
there's
on the
some
outside.
very good documents on the Color Lab website. There's, I think, 96 total formations. Most of them don't matter. There's about 20 formations that you really need to.
Yeah,
Probably
that would
fit.
mean that would mean that I can get into Color Lab and work it effectively.
Send me an email and I'll send it to you.
I just sent it to her in the
Okay.
chat. Look at
Can I-
your chat file.
Can I show her
And,
something?
you have in
Do a from a squared set. Can you? I'm not sure what the program will do. Can you have the heads just move to the middle?
What do you want them to do after that?
Nothing yet.
Heads
He
move
wants
in.
a T-bone. He wants a T-bone.
Yeah. And okay. Yeah. Good. And then can you have the sides face in? Yeah. Okay. So Yolanda. So here's 2 lines, right? Hello.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And now we only need one of them really, but normally they're done in as
these
a
are-
double like everything. Okay, so now let's square the set back up again.
Ends bad.
Okay, and the heads star through.
Zoom. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not yet. No. All right, so we once again we have our 2 lines, except that what happened is that everybody faced down the middle of the line. This is where we were a second ago, except for the facing direction. Everybody's all facing towards the middle now. See that?
Yeah.
So on the call tag the line, what you do is everybody face down the middle, which is what we just did. So we've just done the very beginning of tag the line, and so now we have a bunch of tag positions. Here's the 0 tag position. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's have the centers step to a wave. That would be like the first extend of the extend the tag. So centers touch. That's a 1/4 tag because we've done one part. Now everybody extend again. That would be the half tag, and it's waves. And now everybody extend the tag again. and here's the 3/4 one that we started the conversation, and then the last one the last extend would be for the centers to just go past each other. So you have them step through or whatever it's going to be called. This is the 4/4 or the completed tag, or the tagged. We did the tag the line all the way. And that's where the names come from.
Okay.
The only thing that changes, they don't call this a full tag formation. They call it a completed double pass.
Or you could call it a full tag
Yeah,
position.
no, I was just
This
saying in reference to discussion.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about earlier with naming conventions. So if you're talking with Chris and you say, I can't remember what it's called, but you know when you do a tag the line all the way through that formation you're in, this is a completed tag the line formation.
Yeah, and all I'm trying to show her is that the 1/4, the 1/4, the 1/2, the 3/4, or this one here, the 4/4, those are just the parts of tag the line, the positions that you go through in the tag the line. So that's where those names come from.
For instance, if you said, if I get into a heads past the ocean formation.
And Yolanda, if you look at the current basic definitions, at the call extend, there are pictograms giving the relation to each other.
But as I say, get that formation document that he sent you in the chat.
Okay.
And like I said, you don't have to know them all, but there are very common ones. The box, the line, the wave, double pass through, completed double pass through, circle, square.
Trade by.
I'll bet you knew that this.
I said.
I'll bet you knew that this is called a quarter tag. You just didn't know why or about the other fractional ones.
Yeah, I learn every week. Okay. But the more of the formations I know, the better I understand when you guys are talking.
And you notice I've changed the dancers from boys to girls. They're all exactly the same. Because when you talk formation, the gender does not matter.
That was my question. Does it matter?
Yeah, that's why I changed like that. Does it matter if the boys on the left are their half sachet? No.
And we don't know who they are, so you don't know we're partners or corners or sequence or anything. We just know what the shape is, which is why the formation names are the only thing everybody totally agrees on without thinking about it too hard or anything.
So Yolanda, the document I sent you is formations and arrangements. So that one does have different people, but there's another document that they have that just has formations only.
Okay.
The oldest way of naming the formations before people started trying to come up with terminology, of course, is just to say what the sequence was. So this thing we're in here is the heads past the ocean formation, right? So you can always fall back on that if you can't, if you just don't know what it's called and you're having trouble communicating. You can always just say, how do you get there?
It's one of the biggest things that happened with technical callers from the late 70s through the 80s, early 90s. It was all about the technicality for callers and how good am I and how clever am I, as opposed to, I talk to another caller where they understand what I'm talking about. And as I said, if you said to Chris, if I did heads past the ocean, that formation I'm in, he would know what you were talking about and where the dancers were. So that's perfect understanding. So if you call that a heads past the ocean formation, any caller will know where you are. But if somebody says, well, that's not a heads past the ocean.
And there's also a benefit if you know your formations, then after a double pass through or a trade by, you call that next.
Yep. And that's where ease of understanding. And that comes with time and practice.
Yeah.
So just, phaser, whenever you have a system and you have some method to describe that system, the method ideally describes it in any facet. And Color Lab sort of, touted this idea of phaser to describe all these different formations in any way. And that's what they were pushing for a long time. So I don't really care whether you have names for these things or not. For my personal problem is I cannot see things in my head. If I close my eyes, I see darkness. My mind's eye is blind. So I have to have different ways to categorize this information, and a label for things like a phasor or the associated relationship. That makes a difference to me. I don't know if it makes a difference to anybody else, but to me it makes a difference. But Mel, could you go back to that diamond again?
Sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
So is number 1 yellow and number 4 white or something?
Number 1 is white.
Number 1 is white?
Yeah.
Number 4 is yellow. Okay.
Sorry.
So so if we're doing, oh, you didn't have to do that. That's fine. Go back to the colors. Okay, fine. So
Hang on.
I don't care.
There you go.
All right.
I'll keep it consistent. That's what I use all the time. I'll keep it consistent for ease of reference.
So you can see the colored on the colored side, the left-hand side, that group is a partner group. You can see that both boys have their partners in that group. And so we know that the other one is a partner group also, because symmetry means that, you know, everything is, yeah, right. So now if we want
number 1 man, that's got to be number 3 men.
Exactly. So now if we want to create a technical zero, what we need to do is move the partners to the other side of the square, some partners over to the other side of the square, and then reconstitute this formation. So if the girls do it, you see what we've done? We've moved partners from one side to the other. So partners went into the diamond, and we've reconstituted the formation. So that's a technical zero. Now, any other movement to the other side is going to change that common relationship. Right now, the common relationship is partners. You can see that we have the white couple and the yellow couple. One is a head and one is a side, and they both have their partners. Therefore, everybody has their partners in the group.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. So if we just have the very centers trade,
all right.
One person crossed the square. We've just converted this. Now, if we have the boys circulate, that's the second person that runs across the square. So now we've created a transition. This is basically a chicken plucker effect. So now we have in our group of 4 the people that we need to have in order to create that chicken plucker or right-hand lady box. Oh, I'm sorry. We have opposites here. So girls, it's analogous though. So girls hinge.
It's a what?
It's analogous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not aware of that term.
That's a 3-headed snake. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have opposite ladies here. So if we do a Ferris wheel, we're also allowing another couple to go across the square. So we've just made partner groups. Okay. Girls zoom.
Ah, you partnered them up.
Centers pass through.
Now, would the black ones be partnered?
Yeah,
Yolanda?
they have to be.
Yes.
Not you, Mike. You know.
Oh,
that.
sorry.
because what you do on one side, you do to the other. So
exactly.
centers pass through.
There you go.
Now, do you recognize the formation?
It's an 8 chain through, and it's probably a corner box.
Out.
Oh,
Partner.
Oh,
Partner.
wait, no, wait a second. No, it can't be a corner box because the number ones aren't back to back. So, that's how I remember that one. So don't go for it. So, and they're not, and it's not an opposite because the number threes aren't back. So there are, okay. I don't understand right-hand boxes too much, so it's probably that one.
What was the box you told me the other day you'd never heard of before?
Partner.
Right, I'm having trouble with right-hand leading box. So there's partner boxes, opposite boxes, right-hand lady boxes, and then there's another.
What's a partner box mean?
That they're next to each other. Oh, okay. So partner box.
Why?
So it's a partner box because the partners are next to each other.
Well, not necessarily that. The partner is in the same box. That's what you want to think of it as.
Oh.
Everybody in the box has their partner in the box. If you didn't melt Lady's Chain, it's still a partner box. Now it's in sequence. That's the only difference.
But they're facing. They're facing each other's part.
Is it yellow? Oh, yellow's number 4. Excuse me.
Yeah, yellow's number 4.
I blew that one.
And that's, yeah, well, the principle is correct. It's just the color. That's still a partner box. This, if you remember back to what Bob was saying earlier about groupings, and people say stations or whatever, but the groupings, that's a partner grouping. And it doesn't matter if they're in
sequence or not.
If they're in lines, that's still a partner grouping. If you look at these 4 on the side, the 4 colors, that's still a partner grouping.
Those the partners are facing each other?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're in the same group of 4.
It just means some are in sequence, some are not.
This grouping terminology just means the people that we're talking about are all over on that same side of the square with each other somehow, and the box or the line just means they're in a box or a line. But these phrases don't tell you more than that.
So
I only did that just to show you. See how that's broken it up? They're no longer in that same group of 4.
Yeah.
What kind of group do we have now?
Well, they're not partners. So, and they're not, you know, that my corner box sequence doesn't work this way. So,
wait. Oh, it's gone. Yolanda, the head man is facing who?
I can't
His
tell.
partner.
You're showing your whole screen.
Somebody's doing somebody's sending an email.
I was Kip asking if Mike's presentation is still going.
Okay, so basically, you if we're looking at the facing couples, what kind of group are in the facing couples?
Okay, I've got emails back again. Okay. I'm just going to let Mel, whoever's doing this, finish what they're doing.
Have you got what screen is on yours?
We see the terminations now, but your whole screen is being shared.
You're flipping between the email and the terminations.
Is terminations up now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is now, but you were doing share whole screen, so we were watching you flip back and forth.
I don't like it when you don't know that you're sharing an email.
Yolanda, who's the head man facing?
His partner.
Who's the side man facing? Number 4, who's he facing?
probably is opposite. No,
No.
is the yellow the number 4? My
Yeah.
number, my colors are different. Okay, so okay, so if they're both facing their partner, then it's probably still a partner line.
There you go.
Considering I didn't even know there were partner lines until last week, so not doing too bad.
Okay. So if the side man is there and the head's on the outside there, you know the sides are in the middle. So if this side man is facing his partner, the other side man has to be facing his partner too.
Okay.
The fact that they're in the middle makes no difference.
Okay.
By the way, I don't. This isn't really for me, but I can't see these. I can't see these icons with those colors.
Okay.
What I see is bright colors on the left and some faded out things on the right. Oh, that's a little better.
Are you colorblind, Chris?
No, I'm all the way blind. I can see a little bit.
What color are your dancers, Yolanda?
Oh, I was just gonna say, number 1s are red, number 2s are blue, number 3s are yellow, and number 4s are green.
Can you see those, Chris?
Yes. The ones that's the hardest to see is the 3s.
The yellows. Okay.
So make those orange.
The far left. The other thing that's going on is that in addition to you're right. In addition to the fact that I can't see anything, I have my screen is inverted, so I have different colors because otherwise I won't see anything. This is pretty good. This is pretty good here.
Well, we have a beige background, which is part of it, right?
This is yeah.
Don't
ask me what the colors are, but I can see the numbers here.
Mel, what color is the collar?
I don't think you're allowed to ask that.
That's politically incorrect.
How about we just do this?
I think Don Beck did a session on that today or something.
Yes, he did. How about we just leave the numbers up? Make it easy.
The right hand most dancers kind of disappeared for me a little bit there. Yeah, that's better.
Okay, we'll just leave the numbers up just to make it easier.
Am I screwing anybody else up?
No.
Is this okay for you guys? I can see this much better. I can't see I can't really go by the colors, but I can definitely see.
I can change them all to different colors.
No, this is good. This is good.
Chris, on the dance floor, I don't have any control over how the dancers are dressed, so don't worry.
Yeah. This is why I'm basically doing all mental image calling these days, because I can't even see if there's a square or not. I can tell there's some people there, and I can tell they're moving, but I couldn't tell you if there's 8 of them or not, or certainly not who they are.
How's that?
That's pretty good. It was fine before. This is good.
Good.
That's better.
Okay, you've got 3 that are the same. That doesn't work.
This is good too.
Yeah, but he's got 3 that are the same. We're not doing trios.
I'm just looking at the numbers, really. The only question is whether I can see any icon at all near them, but I can see all these numbers.
Oh.
Okay, so did that clarify your formation question and the difference between a technical 0, an inversion, or a conditional 0? Or did that just confuse the hell out of everybody? Scotty,
well, we went away from...
Or John, sorry.
John's still here. Oh, yeah,
John
that's
Casey.
John. That John. Okay.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah. So did that clarify the 0, the technical 0, the conditional 0? Not understanding them fully, but just understanding the concept of why they are what are. It may always be a ladies chain effect, but it may not always have the same result depending on how you set up the relationships. It all works together to make a difference.
Oh, let me give you one more little tidbit.
Yes, Mike.
Has nothing to do with technical zeros, necessarily. But you, could we just start from a partner line of some kind? Yep, like that. So you had in your foundation modules, Mel, this module, pass through, wheel and deal. Double pass through. Yep, that one.
Yes, this is the module. It's called the foundation module. It's a true zero it's a true line zero, and it's usually called the caller take a break because it does nothing. It doesn't change the dancer pairing, and this allows a caller to move the dancers and see who's paired with who, so he can start setting up a resolution. So it's a caller take a break module while you figure out where the hell the dancers are.
So we can take this and riff on it a little bit, and
yep.
It's kind of interesting how this works. But you could do the same setup: pass through, wheel and deal. Double pass through. First couple go right.
Yep. Oops.
And we basically changed the sequence.
You did a right and a left through.
Well, at the end of it.
Yeah. What I've had fun, I have actually been working on is equivalence for pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through.
Just one of the things, this is a very common one with this module. If you want, you know how to pass through, wheel and deal, first go left, next go right. Just the variety from this partner line, but you notice it also changed where that line ends up. It rotates the line. But if you do your right and left through first, and then your the first couple go right, next couple go left, has that right and left through effect. By moving that right and left through around, all I've done is cancel it. One at the beginning, one at the end, but I can move the right and left through instead of always putting it at the end and doing the same sequence. I can move it and then do first couple right, next couple left. And
so you did this with it was right and left through, pass through, and then it was the wheel. Is that how you did it?
Yeah. So, instead of going, you know, from a partner line, pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, first couple go right, next couple go left. Do the right and left, or sorry, yeah, first couple go right, next couple go left. Do the right and left through to get back to the partner line. You can move that right and left through pretty much anywhere through that sequence, just for a different feel. And you end up with that first couple go right, next couple go left. And what's really good, if you do that once, then you do it left and then right. And then at the end of it, you go double pass through, first couple go left, next couple go left, promenade home. It just gives you that little bit of variety and feeling, and it feels so different to the dancers to go the wrong way without any difficulty. It's like doing a Ferris wheel uphill.
That's a cool one. Hey, now Yolanda, did you follow that? What went on there?
I was thinking of if you did directional symmetry, then that should work as well, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Now on that sequence, Yolanda, we did don't do it on the contaminations, but what he did was he took that right and left through. The usual one is pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, first go left, next go right. So the variation was same thing except first go right, next go left, and now you got to fix it with a right and left through. And then the third thing that he did was move that right and left through from the very end of the sequence to the very beginning. So right and left through, and now do the pass through, wheel and deal. So you got all that, right? You saw that going by.
Actually, I know I missed the part that he actually switched the left and rights around because I was actually thinking about it instead of
Yeah.
watching him do it.
So, well, back up here for a second.
I was talking to somebody about directional symmetry a couple of days ago, so to me it was like, so it was like, okay, I wonder if that applies.
So here's your pop quiz. So the trick was instead of first go left, next go right, he wanted to first go right, next go left, but then you had to fix it with a right and left through. And so that was the first variation. And then the next variation is take that right and left through and move it to the very beginning of the sequence. Okay. And so here's a pop quiz for you. What could you do instead of doing that right and left through? So you did a right and left through, and now we're going to do the pass through. Right? Go ahead and do the pass through. Okay, we'll stop there. Now, this is the variation. But now do this. Now partner trade. So we're just right back where we started. So we're just reset here. Okay. So instead of doing the right and left through and the pass through, because what we want to do is take this thing and just make little variations on it, so it's not always exactly the same one. So all I'm leading up to is my little pop quiz for you. Is instead of doing the right and left through and the pass through here, what could we do instead? It's an easy answer, and I think you'll get it. And not like there's any pressure or anything.
Ladies chain?
Nope. We want to do something that's the same as a right and left through and a pass through.
The partner pairing stays the same.
Yeah, So look at what happens if we do the right and left. We'll just walk the right and left through and pass through again. Right and left through, and see where they go.
So that would be a half promenade.
And now do the pass through.
Only look at one side of the box, or one side of the line.
Yeah. Now do the pass through. Okay. Now we're done. Now reset them. That would be a partner trade. Is just how you're going to reset. And so there's one there's an equivalent that should be one of the ones that's on the tip of your tongue. It's a really good one to memorize, and it's really easy, and you may or may not know it, but let's see if you do. What instead of the right and left through pass through, what would be a good one to do here to dress this whole sequence up a little bit differently?
You said right and left through pass through does the same as a partner trade. What's another partner trade equivalent, or what's another equivalent? To right and
I'm
left
thinking of it. I'm thinking trade buy, but
yeah, in a way you're not that far off. I'll just tell you the answer, just because it's not on the tip of your tongue. It's just a good one to memorize. Is a right and left through and a pass through is the same as a square through 3.
Oh, okay.
It's always nice to have some of the simpler equivalents just at the tip of your tongue, and that's a good one, because now for that whole sequence, instead of doing the right and left through and the pass through, we could do the square through 3, and then we can do the wheel and deal and the rest of the sequence from there.
And then do another square through 3.
And we do the double pass through here, and we can do our first go right, next go left at the end of it. Because we've already done the same thing as the right and left through.
Okay, so can I ask a question? So I don't know, I like this directional symmetry stuff. So if you have a past the ocean and a past the sea, what is there such a thing as something for a right and left through that makes it a left, right, and left through, or not really?
You just call a left and right through.
See, nobody ever does that.
I would work at my club, but you know.
Nobody ever does it because it's not on the list, but it is a call.
Pretty hard. You could use the mirror concept too. That's pretty hard.
How about this? To change it? How about a zoom?
Yeah, I was going to say that. The zoom does the same thing for the sequence.
Wheel and deal. Zoom. Double pass through.
Yep.
First go right, next go left. Bingo.
Oh, zoom is equivalent to the centers. Okay.
Zoom is the equivalent of a right and left through.
Through.
Or it's a way to say it's zoom is the thing that will change the sequence.
Yeah, I would
In
say
the
that.
same way, in the same way that right and left through changes the sequence.
So
But if
instead
they're
of right
only
and
if
left
they're in
through pass through at the begin, instead of right and left through at the beginning, and then the pass, we did a square through 3. That's one way of changing it. So we cancel that by putting the right and left through at the end by going first couple right, next couple left. We don't change it. We do pass through, wheel and deal. We're now going to put that right and left through in the middle. We're using a zoom instead of a right and left through. But we do that, and then we just finish it as normal.
Somebody should write down this whole thing. Somebody should write down the base sequence and all the variations that are being shown here, and then have people who are learning get out checkers and push them through all of these variations so they can actually see what they're doing.
So some of this is in the document for today's talk, which we didn't get to, but some of it, like moving the right and left through around, isn't necessarily in there.
One thing I like about variety, Mel, called pass through wheel and deal.
I'm going to be right back, guys. Do something really over my head.
Pass through wheel and deal. This is what Bill Peters mentioned to me. Have you got to get out for the corner? Yeah. Let's do a swing through, turn through.
Oh, well, that's the when I first started dancing, that was like the classic get out. That got called all the time.
Now back up 2 calls. And with Bill Peters, our get out was swing through, turn through, right? Centers pass through. Swing through, turn through. It's the same get out.
Yep.
Boom. And that's a way to give variety without straining yourself. You just, you could do several things like slide through, touch a quarter, walk and dodge, and it'll have the same effect of getting to the corner.
Absolutely. But yeah, one of the other things, like we were doing this, hang on. Do a square through 3. You can move the right and left through or equivalent anywhere through that sequence as long as you cancel it out.
Yes.
Here's another one.
That's the power of that movement, right and left through, when you start talking modules. If it's in a module, as long as you're not changing the parameters of who's doing what, like calling something that partway through an inversion or partway through a chicken plucker, which is part of the 0, that right and left through can be shifted anywhere from the line to the box as long as you're retaining that grouping. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, here's just another one. Do the pass through, wheel and deal. Then double pass through. Centers in and cast off 3/4. Now pass through. Tag the line. And then first couple go right and left. And we're back.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Got to
okay.
cancel right and left here. My mistake.
Yeah. So it gives a little more variety, same kind of idea.
Yep.
Dude, let's do a touch a quarter. Circulate. Boys run.
Corner box.
There's our corner box. Dive through. Centers go right and left through. Now let's say I want to have the centers pass through to the corner. Well, I've got the paired couple on the inside across, but the corners are across. So that particular pass through doesn't work very well. We could square through 3, pass through, trade by, and all that kind of stuff. But we can also make use of the back end of that little module here and double pass through. And remember, we want to change the sequence now. So we want to have the first couple go right, next go left.
Just cancel the right and left through.
Yeah. Now pass through, wheel and deal. And we're right in the position to have the centers pass through to the corner. And then you can do a left Alaman and a right and left grand, and they'll be home right from here. Promenade. Yep. The reflection.
Eight chain 4. On the fourth hand, everybody courtesy turn.
Well, I think I need to
That
go
would work.
feed the cows.
I like that courtesy turn ending. I'm doing that.
All right, Chris. Yeah, Bob's got 1 million of those. Oh. All right, well, hey, thanks everybody for hanging out today. I got to get myself away.
Didn't think that would work either.
Call all 8 Dixie style with A2. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah. I use that at mainstream.
Sure.
But people don't like Alaman dars and wrong way dars anymore. I don't know why.
Well, everybody have a good evening. I'll see you next time.
You too. Thanks a lot for sticking around, Mike.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Bye, Mike.
Bye-bye, Yolanda.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Mike. That was great.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Anybody have anything else they want to look at or dig into in great depth?
I'll
No.
play checkers with people. Not like this, but one person at a time. You do guys realize you're creating a monster, right?
Yes.
And I have not met a new caller that hasn't felt exactly the same.
I'm actually supposed to be quiet.
No,
But,
you're supposed to ask questions.
no, I'm getting over a sore throat, and I've got 3 tips next week. So I'll have to be quiet tomorrow.
Well, that's good. You get lots of stuff to use to practice then.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of little modules, lots of little sequences that you can set out. Make your tips with your themes and have fun. Most of all, have fun. If you're not having fun, your dancers won't.
I'm having fun.
You
I
gotta
might just
smile when you
overload, maybe.
call.
What
Pardon
was that,
me?
Bob?
Smile when you call.
Yes.
You can hear a smile on the microphone, despite what
Yes,
anybody says.
You really can.
But also, the first thing a caller loses is the smile, and the next is the timing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's harder on Zoom.
Yes, well, this is why, like, if you go to Europe, this is why movements like relay the Ducey and 8-chain through or 8-chain 7 are so popular.
I'm actually
Because
dancing
you can
in
get
Europe.
about half a pint of beer down.
I'm actually dancing in Europe now. I was asked.
In Europe?
You'll enjoy it. It's a different world.
Yes. You guys in Europe, you do much more. That's probably what got me into this directional symmetry. They're in Europe, they do much more left-handed stuff.
I suppose you could look at it that way.
Compared to how I've been dancing in other.
Depending on where you are, what you get is like calling in Germany is very different than calling in the Czech Republic, for example.
Okay.
Calling in England is very different than calling in Germany. Calling in Sweden and Switzerland is very different than calling in France or Germany. I don't even know if they have any clubs left in France, to tell the truth. But
there's about 3 clubs in France.
Yeah.
And the calling in Switzerland is not so much different than Germany.
Yeah,
they're about the same mindset, except when you go to Geneva.
Yeah. And it comes back a bit.
But in Bern or Zurich or in, where's the other one? I forgot. Villingen. The dancing is about the same as in Germany. I've learned to dance and call in Switzerland, and there is actually not much difference, except that when one of the callers I've learned to dance with, Brian Gill, moved from Switzerland to northern Germany, and when he came back one time to visit, he said, "Well, I haven't seen so many dos in an evening for a long time, because in northern Germany they usually do the waist swing, and we did those back then."
Idea. Hello, Kip. Your invitation, the bing for your invitation just popped up on the screen. That's why I think I was a bit late letting you in there. It just came up now. You still with us?
His mic is muted.
Yeah. Unmute your microphone, Kip.
There you are.
But Yolanda, when you call in Europe, you don't have to worry too much about being a little off compared to probably where you are now.
Yeah, Kip, Mike just left. Yeah. No worries. Can you hear audio? Okay. Yeah, Mike just left about 2 minutes ago. Did you not receive the email? Okay. I don't know why. I'm going to have to double check to make sure your address is on the distribution list. It used to be. I don't know why it's not anymore. But, give me 1 second. General documents in 2021 date. Okay, there. I just attached Mike's document in the text, or I can email it to you if you want to have a look at it.
Oh, there was Guido.
Okay, no worries. We'll catch you next time. I'll make sure that I double check that email so that you're on distribution for the next one, which I think would be important because I think you're doing the next one, aren't you?
Yes, he is.
Definitely be important.
Now, you send an email invitation. I wish you would send that to me so I don't have to go through Facebook.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull up the list.
It's a recurring ID number, Bob.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier if you have the email just to click on the link. Okay,
Yeah, that's what I do. I click on the email. Or
okay, Bob, yours is Bob Elling
at gmail.com. Bob.Elling. There's got to be a dot between Bob and Elling.
Is the URL the same every time?
Yeah, I fixed the URL for the link. So it's the same one because a lot of people, they'd saved the link and then they had trouble getting in. And there's people going all over the place. So it was suggested that I get a static link. So it's the same link each time.
Oh, that's good to know. I'm going to bookmark it now.
Yeah.
Okay, and now why does Kip Garvey's not come up? I don't know why.
I still like getting the email because you would think I would remember from 1 week to the next after so many times what the hour is, but one day I got confused, and so now I need to look at the email every time. When is it?
Kip is just kip@kipgarvey.com, isn't it? Anybody else want email directly to them that's not getting it?
If you want to.
What's
Just so I
your email,
remember.
Yolanda?
Pardon me?
Your email address. I know I used to have it, but it kept getting bounced back.
JM 3988 DY
ZY?
DY.
DY.
Yeah. At telus.net.
Okay. Anyone else? Everybody else getting emails? Good. Save. Replace. Alrighty, well, if nobody has anything else, I think we'll call that a day.
All right.
You guys take care of yourself, and I'll catch you all next week.
Okay.
Oh,
Bye,
there's
guys.
yeah, the error in the formula, that's only because it's reversed. Kip says there's an error in the formula behind me for resolving. Oh, and Bob, did you get that question?
A question?
In the
Yes.
chat?
Nobody else has been game to ask you.
Okay, what's the question?
Why are you all dressed up?
Because I'm a caller and I'm going to visit other callers. It's just who I am. My wife understands. I dress up like I would dress up for a dance. It was cold, so I wanted a jacket, so I preferred my square dance jacket. You guys are special to me. That's why I'm dressed up.
There you go. And on a beach in Oahu, he says.
There you go. Yes.
All right, everybody. You take care. I'll see you all next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
see
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Yep, I've added your email to the distribution list, and you should get it. And I'll make sure that I send you a separate invitation separately as well. Bonsoir, adieu, adios, tschüss, tomorrow.
Gute Nacht.
Bye. Dobre večer. Guten
Auf
Tag.
Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Suminisai.
Goeiedag. Whatever you want to say. Have a great day.
Bye.